This conference will
Okay,
now be recorded.
okay. The time being 4:46 p.m. I'd like to call the December 17th, 2020 meeting of the Tilton Select Board to order. Before we get started, please mute your microphone during the meeting unless you want to speak. Otherwise, the background noises will interfere with the meeting. As chair of the Tilton Select Board, due to the COVID-19/coronavirus crisis, and in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically, and these reasons shall be reflected in the minutes. Please note, there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which has been authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that A, we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone. Members of the public wishing to attend this meeting electronically may call the following conference call number at 1-866-899-4679. The access code is 817-026-717, followed by the pound key. B, additional public access by video or other electronic means will be available as follows. We are using the GoToMeeting platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate remotely using your smartphone, tablet, or computer at global.gotomeet.me/town of Tilton/selectmen. This information can also be found on our website at tiltonnh.org under meeting schedules and agenda. Look for under the Board of Selectmen. C, we are providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting via telephone conference and by GoToMeeting, and instructions are provided on the Tilton Town website at tiltonnh.org and at the town kiosks. D, we are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting that a member of the public wishes to speak or be recognized during any public comment or public hearing. If you're a member of the public listening in and have questions, please write your questions down at the end of each agenda item. I will ask if there are any questions from the public before we move on to the next item. Please state your name and address and then ask your question. E, we are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please email web@tiltonnh.org, which will be monitored during the meeting. F, we will adjourn the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, also please state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Constantino.
She doesn't know it's on. Dog present, one dog.
Okay, are you present, Pat? I missed it.
She's on mute.
Okay, well, I can see her.
I'm present.
All right,
And then Tim and Jane are traveling outside.
Pat, we
All
can
right.
hardly hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Better.
Yeah. Okay, Fog. Fog.
For the second time, Fog present, one dog. I go on mute.
Okay then. Eric? No, me. Ha, I'm here. My son and my wife are somewhere in the house, but not around me. Eric?
Ira present. My son is home somewhere in the house, and my wife will be home whenever she gets home.
Okay, well, I hope she's driving safely. John Scanlon? Is John on the line?
No.
Okay, well, we will commence without him. Given the unusual circumstances of this meeting, we will disperse with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I will bring the minutes of 12:10 to the floor for discussion. Are there any additions, comments, or suggestions?
Mr. Chairman, those
Yes.
minutes are not ready yet for the board to review.
No, yeah, I read that. What's the other one? The
They are
emergency
the
are
two
there,
sets of
right?
emergency minutes. Yes,
Okay.
24 and 25.
Okay, my apologies. We'll dispense with the 12:10 minutes, and I'll bring the emergency meeting minutes of 11:24 and 11:25 for discussion. Are there any comments, corrections, additions?
I didn't see any corrections or additions.
Okay, did you make it, John? Okay, nope. I will make a motion to approve the sets, both sets of emergency meeting minutes. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. Of 11:24 and 11:25. Is there a second?
Second,
We have a
Constantino.
motion. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Constantino?
Constantino, aye.
Fog, yes.
I'm a aye. Eric?
Ira, yes.
Scanlon?
Scanlon's not
Still no.
here.
Okay, I can't see that on mine. Let me see. I would make a motion to, at this time, to accept a $5,000 donation from LAL Property One LLC, which is the Planet Honda dealer on Route 3. Is there a second?
Constantino, second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? I would say thank you very much to Planet Honda and for being a part of the Tilton community. All those in favor of the motion, roll call vote.
Constantino, yes.
Fog, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Ira, yes.
Okay. At this time, I would make a motion to accept $7,190.13 in donations from the brick and tile fundraiser for the new police department. Is there a second?
Constantino, second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? I would say thank you very much to everybody who donated, and I'll be looking for my brick real soon there, Chief. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Constantino?
Constantino, aye.
Fog, yes.
I'm an aye. Eric?
Ira, yes.
Okay, moving on. I make a motion to accept $739.20 from the state of New Hampshire for unclaimed property. Apparently this is a project that Cindy has been working on, and we have reclaimed that amount of money. Is there a second?
Constantino second.
We have a jumbled motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Constantino?
Aye.
Fogg, yes.
Jessamine, aye.
Pyra, yes.
Ira?
Pyra, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Not hearing John, we move to the next thing, which is the 2021 budget. We'll be voting on sections of the budget tonight. And Tim Pearson, you have the floor.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I'm having,
You're muted, Tim. You're muted. Tim, you're muted.
Hello. Ah, IT guy's out.
You're muted.
He knows.
Okay.
What's he gonna do? Text it in? There we go.
So if you want, we could try to move on to something else before, while he's getting himself straightened out. Could move on
Okay.
to Eric.
Let's jump to the selectmen's reports. Pat, are you ready to present your selectmen's report?
I
You
don't,
want to wait?
I let someone else go first. That'd be fine.
Or we can just wait. I'm sure Tim's going to be right back on the line. I'm thinking. As if anybody could fix it, it would be Tim, I think.
He says he's having some real problems and he's working on it. So you might want to, maybe Eric wants to go with his idea.
Okay. Yep. All right. So, Eric, you're
Well,
up next.
I needed Tim's help in my in the visual part of my
Okay.
discussion.
Okay. Well, I have something under mine. Short and sweet. Please remember. Winter parking ban started on November 15th and remains in effect until April 15th. No vehicles may be parked on town streets between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. through April 15th. We just had 18 to 24 inches of snow here in Tilton, and I have reports of, and I saw for my own self, that there were some people parked upon the street. This was causing problems for the plow guys, and it's unsafe. You can only go pile so much snow up against the car. So we really need to be enforcing that parking ban, Chief.
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me. I put it in my report last night. Back in November, the midnight shift started to warn people with flyers under their wipers about the parking ban, and that transitioned to tickets for some people. And I think for most of the tree streets, he said he felt like he got everyone off the road in 100% compliance. But I did hear about one today, and we sent a cruiser over there, and by the time the cruiser got there, it was moved. But yeah, we'll re-emphasize that nobody can park on the streets. We did put it on our social media pages, but we'll put it out again.
What about Morrison Avenue, Chief?
Yeah, so that's the one I mentioned, Pat. We sent a cruiser over there, and by the time they got there, he had moved it, what dispatch told me.
Huh.
And I think, that's one of the things that, if he continues, he's going to be towed. Typically, what they'll do is door knock it if they can't get a hold of somebody next time he's out there during a snowstorm. Unfortunately, it's going to be towed.
Is the vehicle being parked in front of the house?
That's what I was told. I did check with the highway department and spoke with the director. He said they didn't have any issues last night, but certainly we don't want to make it so that they do. We want to get out ahead of it.
So it was not parked in front of the house.
Yeah, it
I
was.
was told. I was told it was, Pat. But when
So
a cruiser responded there, I guess he had moved it, is what I was told.
I drove by there today at 10:30 and it was parked right in the spot that it's usually parked in.
and we're not supposed to have it parked at all during winter storms.
That's correct. You're coming up, Eric. Eric, go ahead.
Oh, I drove by that residence at 5 o'clock this morning. There were no cars parked there. Our winter parking ban, as you just said, after 6 a.m., people can park on the street. We need to declare a snow emergency and do the auto dial, whatever we need to do to get no one to park on the street. That's what we need to do to prevent people from parking on the street. But I went by there at 5 o'clock this morning and there were no cars there and there was no evidence of cars parked there.
Okay. What about that snow emergency, chief?
Yeah. So the highway director and I, in cooperation with the board, can put that out during significant storms, and we can put out an alert Tilton message. The midnight shift coordinated with highway when they came out, and they checked all the roads to make sure that the plows could get through. And when I talked to the director this morning, he said they didn't have any issues, but certainly he's going to need to do all the snow removal downtown. So we're going to have to message that for him. He said within a couple days he'll be ready for that and have any cars down there out of the way for the snow removal. But certainly with a storm like this, we can do that next time. We can put out an alert message that it's a snow emergency and you can't park on any roads.
Comments, suggestions? Sounds good to me.
Oh, wait, I have another one.
Go ahead.
It's kind of related to that because when I was driving by or through some of the roads this morning on this side of town, crash day, and they were courteous, and the roads were narrower because they were trying to avoid the trash barrels. Why didn't we postpone trash removal until tomorrow?
Never even thought about that. I never even conceived that it was going to snow 2 feet. That's on me. That's on us.
I don't think it's on us. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't think it's on us. I think it's on Panad because the agreement said with Panad that they would give us if it were a snow day, that they would give us a heads up ahead of time to let us know whether they're going to pick up. Now I don't know who services Northfield, but they knew within 24 hours, and they put out on Facebook that they will not that there would be a day delay in pickup because of the storm. We could have had the same courtesy from Panad, and we didn't. And people were scrambling last night wanting answers. And it raised havoc with our plows.
Seems like we really need Tim to communicate this too, because he's the one point guy with Penard at this time. At Tim?
Yes, it is.
Oh, nice. Well, it was.
I'm
Okay.
working on it. I'm almost there.
the criteria for the snow emergencies and who actually calls it, because you never know there's a snow emergency until there's a snow emergency on you. I've seen lots of forecasts of 11 inches that turned out to be 3 and 4, and not that big a deal. Certainly not a snow emergency in Tilton. Last night, today, yeah, see that. But how do you know it's going to happen until it happens?
Well, it was predicted, that's for sure.
They predicted snow. What I heard was that it could like kind of drift south of us a little bit. We'd have been in the 4 to
8 to
6
10.
range.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We got nailed at my house. I don't know if it's a Silver Lake effect or what, but okay. Hey, Tim, are you up and running over there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then
Yes.
let's switch right over to you for the
Okay.
budget.
Okay, very good. So let's see. Let me bring up, I'm having to punt a little bit. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm going to bring up the budget that I sent yesterday. There we go. All right, you should be seeing this on your screen momentarily. So last week I asked the board to move those encumbrances, which are encumbrances and budget transfers, approve those, which you did. And so what used to show was a $45,134 contingency line. And that line through that budget transfer and encumbrance document moved all those monies into budget lines within the operating budget. So by doing so, it goes back into the budget line for 2020, and therefore those lines increase some. If you're looking at this far left column, so prior to this, some of these monies were in a line down here called contingency, and they were not available to be spent. So that budget transfer put those back into the operating budget, so therefore these lines came up a little bit, which changed some of the percentage decrease or increase because the base amount of the budget changed slightly across the whole operating budget. So that's why if you were to look at what the request is, the $5,368,723 versus what it was a week ago, it's changed a little bit, and I'll go through those changes, but the percentage changes changed more dramatically, and that's because the contingency money was reallocated into the those appropriate budget lines. Two caveats with that. One is going through the budget last night of the police department, I noted where we have a $0 for this year in the compensated absences line for the police department. And that was as a result of a meeting early on in, I want to say it was February, March timeframe, when we were collecting money to put into that the contingency fund. And there was a thought at the time that we could manage so that there would be no remaining comp time to be paid out. So as it turns out, there is a nominal amount of comp time that will need to be paid out, but that line will show $0 budget. So we need to put $1 into that. And then one other error on my part from last week. The document largely covered the encumbrances as a result of moving the contingency money, but by moving the $1,100 into the Public Works radio communication line, it effectively doubled it. And so now there's $2,200 in there. And the intent was to encumber $1,100 from the 2020 budget, not move money into that line. So that was my fault, and I have no doubt it was just in haste, trying to get that ready for your signature. So I will be putting up, and hopefully the board will approve, moving $1,100 out of that radio communications line. The encumbrance, it'll show the encumbrance for $1,100 for the radio communications. It'll move $1,100 out of that line, so it'll be the original budgeted amount. And I'm recommending moving that into the admin miscellaneous line where the gifts for the employees, Christmas gifts for the employees, are being paid out. And then also moving $1 into the compensated absences line to account for having to pay out those compensated absences next week. So I'll prepare that in a separate document. Hopefully I've explained it clearly enough, and that my computer problems on this end didn't make me too rattled to be able to explain it in a way that's understandable. So any questions on the encumbrances or the budget transfers?
The encumbrances that you're talking about, does that include the monies for the police compound, the camera for the compound yard?
No, I was going to get into that. So so there were, I guess now is as good a time as any. So there were two other items that came up for encumbrances. One, I was trying to nail down the price for the camera for the impound lot, which is $1,258.25, I believe. And we can encumber that into next year, but I'd actually, they were able to give us a lower price on that because of stock that's at the supplier's warehouse, and it matches the camera that we have out there now. So I'd like to actually pay that out of this year's budget. I think we can still do that, although the full installation may not take place until spring, depending upon the status of the ground. In other words, if we can't get the pole in. So in effect, we'll have the camera ready to go, and they will install it on the pole and run the wire. We would be required to install the pole and do the trench. So, which I had already talked to Kevin about, and he has the pole, and he didn't think it was going to be difficult to do the trench. So that's one item.
I have a question on that. Is it our intent to keep the impound garage there for the police department, or eventually is it going to move over 132?
Well, we had originally priced in the planning process for the new PD having an impound lot in the back. It was a larger impound lot, and because of the cost at the time, and I don't have that right in front of me, Jeannie may have it, I don't know, but it was taken out of that with the understanding that we already had an impound lot. If we were to move it at some point to the new PD, both of these cameras, the camera that's already existing there and the new camera, could be used. I'm not sure we would use the same poles, but we certainly could. But it was an effort to reduce the cost in that first go round when we got the first price from Milestone.
Why do we need a second camera when this one has worked just fine for a couple of years? And our intent is at some point in time, not maybe this year, but in the near future, to move the impound lot over to the new PD. Not with the building, but as we continue to move on.
Well, my understanding is in order to maintain compliance for the type of security we need there, and maybe the chief wants to speak about the history or why we're doing this now. But without this camera, it's possible that the area could be breached and in such a way that someone wouldn't be necessarily detected.
Chief, do we need a second camera?
Yeah, so I agree with Tim. What I was told is the one camera doesn't give full coverage for the entire impound lot. And because of that, someone could get in there and tamper with vehicles that we're holding in evidence. And so speaking with the captain and Tim, they agreed that a second camera would be needed to cover the entire lot.
But let me say this. What we just did was broadcast to any criminal who happens to be listening in that the impound lot isn't covered.
Well, and I was under the impression that the board was aware of the issue at the impound lot.
I was not.
Perhaps
I'm not willing to put in one more dime into the police department or spend any more money into the police department because it is going to hurt so bad in March town meeting when they figure out how much more this police department is going to cost us. So if we can get by without the $1,200 camera, then I'm all for it. It's just where every single week we talk about something different to buy for the police station, and I'm done shopping for them.
Okay, how about you, Peter? What do you say?
I say we grab the camera, whether it goes up at DPW or 132 remains to be seen.
How about you, Eric?
Grab the camera.
John, did you make it, buddy?
Nope.
No. Okay. Well, if we need a camera, I have the people that I rely on saying we need the camera. I can see why we would need the camera, and I agree totally with Pat that I am just so sick of spending money on the police department.
Can we put it off until next week till we have a full board? Does it have to be done today?
Yeah, how about that, Tim?
yeah, that's fine. You are going to meet then the last week.
Christmas Eve.
Actually, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, we were closed.
So, Mr. Chairman, Tim and I were talking and we believe that you are going to need to have at least one more meeting before the end of the year. So we were, and it was in my report, going to ask you about either the 29th or the 30th to meet as a board, which is on a Tuesday or 29th is a Tuesday, 30th is Wednesday.
Pat,
That's fine with me.
Peter?
Fine with me.
So we say Tuesday.
I have no preference. I have no preference myself.
I'm on
Tuesday.
vacation.
How about
that
you,
week.
Eric? Eric?
Yeah, I'm checking my calendar. Hold on. Sorry. Read. 29th or 30th, either one. They're both free at this time.
Okay. How about we'll do it on Tuesday night,
Okay. 4:45?
4:45.
Okay, and the
And
answer to
that's
the
the 20 what? 28th?
29th.
29th at 4:45. Okay.
and this can definitely wait until then.
All right.
The other item was during a meeting, with the issue I was having earlier, it sounded like you did your selectmen's reports, and perhaps Selectman Fogg mentioned from the Parks Commission, there was a motion to encumber up to $4,500 of their budget for the replacement of the analog cameras, of which there are 3 at Riverfront Park. So over the years, there's been a system installed there since 2007, and it's been upgraded and enhanced over the years. And most of the cameras are IP cameras, higher resolution, faster processing, that sort of thing. There's still 3 cameras that are analog cameras, slower, kind of flip phone versus smartphone, if you will, the difference between them. They still have good resolution to them, which I told the Parks Commission, but they've been wanting to replace them with better cameras, and they're in critical locations where we've used that surveillance before from the one side of the building with the bathrooms where there's been vandalism and other things going on that the police have needed video from. So in any event, they had voted on and approved up to $4,500 for the replacement of 3 analog cameras and an uninterruptible power supply. And in the process of going through with Mango, replacing those, the device that we have there that's currently running the systems is one that has to handle both analog and IP. And as a result, it doesn't have quite the capability of a newer one that'll handle all IP, so on and so forth. So in any event, they were able to quote the, and I did send it on to the board earlier tonight, but they were able to quote, and I can bring it up. I think if I can find it here, that's the wrong one. They quoted, here we are, $39.57, which includes new hard drives, new surveillance system NVR itself, along with the replacement of the cameras. So they were able to do this because the lengths of the cable and the cabling, they're things that they can already use. So there's less labor involved. And but in any case, so this is slightly different from what the Parks Commission had approved. But I did want to, at least, I was hoping to have a discussion today with Bob Hardy and just see if he wanted to have another meeting to discuss this. But considering it accomplishes the majority of it, of the 3 analog replacements, and within their budget figure, I thought I would at least bring it forward. And now that you're having another meeting, this could probably go to the next meeting and give me an opportunity to talk to Bob Hardy. And so in any event, Peter, I don't know if, had you mentioned this during your, yeah, okay. All right. So I would say, given that we've had the existing NVR with the existing drives installed since it was 2014, so we're going on, this will be 7 years this next year. I would say it would probably make sense to replace the NVR. So I would recommend that to the Parks Commission at the same time they're replacing the analog cameras. And then you've got a system that's all IP, and it should be faster and better and lasts longer, and it has brand new hard drives in it. And that's the thing I worry about, is that these hard drives don't last forever. And if you've ever been in a situation where you've lost a hard drive in a personal computer, it's probably been in a 5, 6, or 7-year-old computer, and it's not fun. So in any case, that's, I guess this could wait until the next meeting, unless there's any questions on it for me.
Anybody? No, I don't think so, Tim. Why don't
Okay.
we just wait till the next meeting?
Yep, and I will address that with Bob Hardy prior to that and see if they wish to meet. The last thing that so that would be an encumbrance out of the Parks Commission line, and they do have budget to be able to encumber. The last item is an increase in the hauler's fee. So we incurred a 75, we are about to incur a 75-cent increase in our tipping fees for the town. I did make that update in the budget. And if you recall, I mentioned it last week that we were waiting on Wheelabrator to give us that increase. And so what this will do is preserve our administrative profit that we make when we're billing haulers, and it's essentially just passing through that price increase to them. So right now we charge $72 per ton, so we go up to $72.75. Our cost, the cost of tipping fee, is $71.14 at Wheelabrator. I also updated the tonnage in the budget, and I'll point that out as we get to it when we go through the few budget changes that there were. So I did want to mention that, and I would like the board to approve increasing our fee to the haulers for tipping at Wheelabrator to $72.75.
I would make a motion at this time to increase the tipping fee price to the haulers to $72.75 per ton. Is there a second? No, I don't hear a second.
Second
Okay.
for discussion.
Okay. Now, discussion. The increase is mandated in the contract that we became a party to when we entered the co-op. And it's just kind of part of the process of being involved in the co-op. As far as passing on this to the next person, in this case the tipping fees, it's just part of the deal. Is there any other discussion?
Chairman, John Scanlon
Yes.
has arrived. John Scanlon has
Oh,
arrived.
yeah.
All right.
Good.
So you say that that's part of the contract,
Mhm.
but do we know specifically that they can go up every single year in the tipping fee? That's part of the contract?
There's a regulated, contracted, and I don't have the contract right in front of me to tell you like what the next one would be or whatever, but every year we have differing tipping fees to Wheelabrator, and the co-op is the one who uh, uh, coordinates the negotiations and gets the rate for the entire co-op.
Is
That's
this
what the co-op does.
is this the year we're going out for renewal and bidding process?
Yes. Not in this budget cycle, but certainly in the next
The
budget
following
cycle.
one. Okay, thank you.
And indeed, we should have a plan, and several plans maybe in place about where do we go next and what do we do next, I
Yep.
think.
Well,
That would include Kevin's proposal as well, correct?
Oh, no, absolutely, positively. I mean, I personally look to that with anticipation and to see what the numbers are. And I can't believe that we can't do this ourselves cheaper than what we're paying right now.
Yep.
So we'll see what the numbers say, how long it takes to break even and whatnot, because that's going to be a big outlay. Of course, we won't have a hauler's contract either, so it'll be an offset. Well, we'll be talking about that going forward, no doubt.
well, maybe if you recall back in 2016, when we looked at that the last time, the issue was that we just didn't have the right management in place and the staff in place to be able to pull it off. There was saves identified back then, and I'm sure that it'll be identified now. This so the contract, Joe, does it go through the end of 2021? It was a
I'll say
7-year contract.
Yeah, I want to
with
say it
Wheeler
goes
Grader.
through the end of the year.
Okay.
Again, I don't
So
have
in
the
any event,
contract in front of me.
what I did was I showed I updated the budget to reflect the increased tipping cost to the town, and also increased the tonnage based on what we had talked about last week. So in any event, I will just highlight a couple of other small things. Last week there was an errant $6,000 in the health and welfare budget that was remaining from the bus from the year prior. That was taken out. So there's really only a $72 increase in health and welfare. Which was essentially taking out the $5,000 or $6,000 from the bus, but then adding $5,000 to the welfare director's general assistance line, and then some other small changes in the police budget. Looking at the medical insurance, looking at the plan changes, there was some reduction that we were able to do based on the budgeted insurance for 2021. So there was a slight reduction there. And I believe everything else was pretty much the same. So what would change here is taking out that $1,100. Once that's done and moving that'll go from Public Works, if the board approves it, to the administration budget. So there'll be a couple of little minor moves within this, but otherwise, if you have specific questions, I can go through the individual budget lines again, or any particular budget, or if you'd like to start voting, or however you'd like to proceed.
Me personally, I'd like to start voting.
Me too.
Peter?
That's
Peter?
fine. That's
Okay.
fine. I've got slow internet.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, that's fine.
John?
Yep, all set.
Okay. Welcome, John. So where do we start, Tim? Line 1?
Well, depending upon how granular you want to get, you could. I would recommend you go by the departmental requests, the totals. But if you want to make changes to any particular department, we can go through them. I can bring it up. But otherwise, perhaps start with a motion to approve the bottom line of the department, and then during discussion, I suppose you could make changes to, as you see fit.
Or we could make a motion to approve it once we've made the changes.
However you would like.
Let's do it that way. So line number 1, and I suggest we use the departmental request as a starting point, and then we'll go line by line. Okay, Tim, you want to go do the honors, please?
Sure. So under the salary for the selectmen, those are the stipends that you receive. If I can keep my mouse steady here. $24,000.
I have a question. How
Yes.
come the expenditure is over $24,000? There's 24,422.
I see that.
Where did the 422 come from?
It's a good question. I will find out. I won't be
Okay.
able to find out tonight, but
I I think that's
Don't
when,
tell me we're burying legal fees again.
no, I think that was when one selectman went out and another one came in. It was in the same month. It was prorated. Remember when we got,
Oh, oh, yeah, yeah, in the spring.
It
mhm.
could be. I will get the answer for you. I just won't be able to do it tonight.
Okay. Moving down is trustee of the trust funds. Seems like I'm guessing it's reasonable. Anybody else? $1,200. 3 trustees at $400 per year as a stipend. Without exception, let's accept it. How do you want to do this? Vote on every line?
No, vote on the bottom line, and if we have any
Okay,
correction,
okay,
exclude them.
terrific. All right,
I-
that's a good idea. All right, Tim.
Let me give you I can go down to the bottom line here. So if, and to save you the trouble of voting again on Tuesday, if you are inclined to approve the $1,100 budget transfer from Public Works Department, then the departmental request would be 657,976.
All right.
I think
Administrative part-time and overtime. We're above the number that we budgeted last year. And yet you're requesting the same. Why are we above the number? What does that mean?
So you're looking at the overtime.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we're above the number, but what is it that makes you think that we're not going to be above the number again?
because, well, hopefully it'll be a more normal year without, I think some of the election activity generated a little bit of overtime for the deputy when the office had to stay open due to statute. And then also I think the number of meetings, in spite of the fact that the administrative assistant wasn't attending your meetings, doing the recordings from the meetings, there were times, I think, that there were just a few times when there was additional overtime for one thing or another. So I think the majority of it was through the town clerk tax collector's office of
Okay,
the over, but it's late.
okay, makes sense to me. Salary town administrator,
That was
yes,
voted, those are the
yes,
voted
yeah.
merits.
Administrative assistant, compensated absences.
So
Again, we're
those-
way over,
right,
but
and
we're
we're
asking
probably
for the same amount.
right. So that's something that we really can't plan on every year. It depends on, and for this year, it was because people were not able to take their vacations. So the people that were eligible to buy out their time, that's where it gets charged line.
That's not going to happen in the future.
Well, it's possible, but it
not
is,
predictable.
So you say that's not typical.
Not predictable.
I'd say it's both. You know, it's very difficult to predict, given the fact that people haven't been able to take time. If I can find this line, there it is. I would say that ordinarily, if you look at our 3-year average, it's been under 3,500. Our 5-year average has been slightly over 3,500, and all of a sudden, you know, this year we blew it out, doubled it. So, and I think again that's due to the fact that people weren't able to take their normal vacations and and it was a very odd work year. And those that could and were eligible to buy out did buy out sometime. They wouldn't lose it.
Okay. Merit raise pool.
Any question about that?
You got a question, Eric? Jump in.
Yeah. If we don't see next year changing a heck of a lot, are we risking it by not upping that? We went last year, and probably the first half of next year, we're going to be in a similar situation where a lot of people can't take time off for.
So, I didn't quite hear you, Eric.
So, are we going to be in a situation similar to next year, where people aren't going to be able to take time off, and we're going to have to be in the same boat where we're going to be over budget because people can't take time off? I don't see, at least for the first half of the year, the first few months at least, it's not going to really change travel restrictions and whatnot.
But the merit raise is not considered anything. That's not a compensated absence. It's a merit raise is what you earn, what we give you in July for an evaluation.
No, this wasn't.
That,
This is going back to the compensated absence.
okay, I thought Joe, let's move on to merit raise, and that's why
I did, but
Okay.
Eric had a question and I missed it.
Okay, sorry about that.
So I agree, Eric. That was kind of my concern.
Well,
Tim, do you really think $3,500 is the proper amount to budget in that line?
well, so I guess what I would say is that every year we have some lines that we have savings in where we don't anticipate it, and other lines, you got to remember it's simply a plan, and I mean we can certainly bring it up, but most people seem to take their vacations during nice weather, and not so much in the beginning of the year. It's not to say that there haven't been, but I think the majority of employees, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my experience with the town, I think most have been in the summertime, summer or sometimes early fall, but mostly from like a May to September timeframe. So, I mean, we could certainly up it if you'd like.
It's a bottom line budget. We can move money around if we have to. I'm okay with the 3,500. Everybody else?
I'm okay with the 3,500.
So I can save you a little time as well. First of all, anytime you run across a line that's got stipends, they're all going to be $400 based on the number of people. So anytime we run across any of those, the boards, the budget committee, board, zoning board, senior executive committee, they're all based on the standard that has been set for several years now. So hopefully that will help with that. All the salary lines are based off of what the salary is currently, times either if it's an hourly employee, 2,080 hours, or weekly employee based on the number of weeks, 52 weeks, and then the health and taxes and retirement. Those are all generated off of those numbers. So that's probably going to be a large chunk of some of these numbers coming up. But you do have in this miscellaneous line, I'll just point out that this is where I wish for the board to put the $1,100 coming out of the public works budget, if you're so inclined to make that budget transfer. And as I said, I will prepare a document and have it up for your signature before your next meeting. But
I'll make a motion to move the $1,100. Is there a second?
Irish second.
We have a motion and a second.
Can we at
Is there
least
any further
yeah, can we
pardon
at
me?
least can we at least fill John in on that $1,100 because he was not
Oh,
here and
John,
that discussion?
Tim, you
Yes.
want to go through this one more time?
Yeah, sure thing. So last week in the encumbrance and budget document, there were a number of things listed. All those budget transfers were done. And so the very front page of the budget looks a little different because the contingency money was reallocated into those departments based on the budget line that was identified in the document that you all signed last week. The one exception was I had intended for the Public Works Director to be able to purchase and encumber and purchase a radio for next year's budget. And the document that you actually signed was moving $1,100 from the contingency line into the radio communication budget line. So therefore, his $1,100 that he already had effectively doubled to $2,200. So having seen that error, I was, and since you had already approved after the discussion of the budget last week, approved the employee Christmas presents, that my recommendation was to move that $1,100 from the Public Works radio communications line and put it in the admin miscellaneous line, which is where those are being paid from. So in the end, we will expend about $300 more than the admin miscellaneous line, give or take outstanding invoices that are out there right now. So that's that one. The other one that I would I can discuss that when we get to the police department, but essentially earlier in the year we had zeroed out the compensated absences line when we were looking to put money into the contingency fund and thinking that we would be able to manage that to the point where officers and others wouldn't have any retained comp time at the end of the year that we would have to buy out. However, it didn't work out that way. There's a nominal amount that we're going to have to buy out this next week. And so therefore, we need to have at least $1 in that line. And I was recommending moving that $1 from the police officers' wages into that particular compensated absences line in the police budget. And I can review that in the police budget if you like. But that's it in a nutshell.
We have a motion on the floor that has to do with the $1,100. Is there any other discussion?
Can the motion be a little more specific? We're moving $1,100, period.
Can you, well, Tim gave the information earlier. Tim, would you please state the information one more time? What
I
lines
want
or
it in
what
the
line?
motion. I'm not voting on a vague motion.
No, you're absolutely right, Peter. I apologize. Tim?
Okay, so my recommendation would be for the board to move $1,100 from the Public Works Radio Communications line into the administrative budget miscellaneous expense line.
So moved. Is there a second?
Irish second.
Okay. We have the messy baggage of already having a motion on the floor, but I'll withdraw that motion. We now have a motion to take it from the Public Works radio line to the other line that I didn't write it down. Sorry.
The admin miscellaneous, which I just
right. Terrific. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Outstanding. Constantino.
Constantino, no.
Roll call. Okay.
Yes.
Jessamine is yes. Pyra.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon.
Scanlon, yes.
The motion carries. Okay, Tim, let's move
Okay.
right along.
All right. So other than that, the other salary information from supervisors of the checklist, moderator, that's all based off of one election. As I said last week, the taxes, retirement, life disability, that's all generated from the salary lines. The tax map update I explained. Obviously, the big sore thumb here is the legal, general legal expense, and Jeannie and I are hopeful that it is going to be a more normal year based on active cases, if you will. So that's one area that might need to be looked at again next year, and if needed, a budget transfer. Other than that, it is pretty much business as usual. The monies were moved, as I said, for the budget transfer into the maintenance and repairs line so that we can do the encumbrances. And that's pretty much it. So you're looking at, as I said, again, a bottom line, adding in the $1,100 that you just approved. For the administrative budget, the request is $657,976.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I'll
Eric
second it.
I thought Eric seconded it.
I did.
Okay, Eric seconded it. I missed that. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All those in favor say aye.
Constantino, yes.
Constantino?
Bog, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Motion carries. Okay, Tim.
So I don't know about you, but I've had quite a day today. I just want to bring something to your attention, as I just had the gut punch and realized that just want to bring this to your attention, that the transfer is to the 2020 budget. The departmental request for 2021 does not necessarily need to have the $1,100. My apologies. So if you would like to leave the $1,100 in one of those, in that line, that's great. Otherwise, I would recommend that you vote on the request. Again, I'm sorry, it's been a day.
Okay. What's the number of the request?
656, 876.
656.
856.
876.
876.
Yep.
So
Okay.
moved.
I will second the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Constantino?
Constantino, yes.
Bog, yes.
Jessamine, yes. Ira?
Ira, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Okay, that motion carries as well.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Town clerk tax collector budget. Again, this is just the highlight is 3% for the town clerk tax collector that she's seeking. Everything else is pretty much on par. She has a very slight increase year to year, and again, she's done really pretty well with her budget overall, considering what they were doing this year and having to do. So The bottom line there is $135,667, and that is essentially passing through her 3% increase for the budget committee and town meeting to consider.
Why do we vote on the town clerk tax collector's budget?
It's our budget.
Well, the whole budget is our budget, yeah.
Well,
But
short of
she's an
having,
elected official.
That's why she does her salary and we don't. And the voters choose.
Well, actually, we do because it's the very first line in the budget, Peter.
No, because it's going to go by what the voters say on the budget committees. We can say whatever we want.
And so do the selectmen ones. They're in the budget.
Should we approve that line minus the town tax collector's salary?
No. You want to create a hornet's nest, do that. You'll have
Okay,
a
so
town meeting.
is there a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion that we accept the town clerk tax collector's budget
135,667.
135,667.
Bog second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
I just want to clarify with Eric, typically what we do is we put it in the budget and then people at the legislative body sees that it's in the budget and they can take it out there. It's not our decision to make.
Well, we are making it our decision by approving the budget.
No, we're not.
We're passing it through.
We're passing it through to the legislative body to make the final decision. We haven't decided. This budget is only giving it to the taxpayers so that they can vote on it. This
If
is
you
not
go back when we tried to do zero to let the voters decide, they weren't real happy with that on our part.
right. And so we've put it in there so that they have, so we don't disenfranchise the legislative body. We allow them to make that decision, not us.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. John?
every line in here is what the selectmen recommend to do, and every line is voted on, can be changed at the town meeting for whatever they feel. If all the selectmen feel that the town clerk tax collector should get 3% and all other employees get 2%, I don't see why we wouldn't put it what we're paying all employees, and they can bring it to the floor to amend it on the floor. Why not?
So, where do we go here? We have a motion on the floor, and we'll see where we go here. Is there any other discussion?
I have a question based on what John just said.
Okay.
Does that position, hold on. Did that position follow the employee handbook, the employee rule or policies of all? And the policies, I believe, I don't know if it's the selectmen's policy, the town's policies, that no one receives more than a 2.5%.
Well, for the 2021 budget, I believe it's 2%, Eric. And she does follow the town policies, gets the same benefits, that sort of thing. She gets paid time off.
Show me a year where we don't have an employee getting over whatever the recommended percent is. There's always at least one.
But she's also a department head that's an elected official, and her raise is based solely on what the legislative body gives us. Even if we recommend, if we put in the budget 1%, the legislative body can change that. If we put in the budget, she asked for 5%, the legislative body can change that. It's very unique situation where we cannot recommend and then the budget committee recommend and the legislative body says, well, let's listen to the selectmen in the budget committee because they know what's best for the town of Tilton. This is a department head elected official, which is very different from a Jeannie or a Tim or somebody like that. So it it is her raise solely depends on town meeting and it's retroactive to January. That's so it doesn't, if you're trying to keep it in the realm of 2%, then I mean we technically can approve only 2% if that's what you're going at. We could technically do that, but then there'll be an argument at town meeting and over the years we've been through that and we've lowered it and then there's been an argument at town meeting and she's actually 1 year, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter and Joe and John, 1 year she actually got a little bit more than what she had asked for in the original. I think she asked for 3% and got a 3.4 3.5%.
The
That's
other thing to
Uh,
be careful of is if we put in, say, 0%, we've dropped our budget knowing that she's going to get something. So we've skewed our hours lower. If
right.
you want to do 2%, just put an amendment out. That's all.
I'm for letting the public decide on it, not us.
Okay, is there any other discussion on the motion? John?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Hearing no other discussion, roll call vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Constantino,
Constantino?
yes.
Was it, I'm sorry, I'm just with minutes. Was there a second to John's motion? Who did that?
I made the motion to accept it for
I made the-
135,000.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I think John seconded.
No,
No, I think
No,
Eric said,
it
I
was
second.
seconded. I seconded it.
right. Somebody did.
I would
Yeah.
have seconded it. Okay. Constantino's a yes.
Bog, yeah.
Jessamine is a no. Pyra?
No.
Scanlon?
no,
Okay, the motion fails. I would like to change the town clerk tax collector to the 2% that everybody else gets. And it can be amended on the floor at town meeting. Is there a second?
Pyra second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Tim, what would the revised number be?
Sure, I can, give me 1 second. I'll give you that. Keep in mind, it will also flow to taxes and retirement in the administrative budget.
Yep.
But that's okay.
If it
Let's
passes,
see. Correct. Yep. So 2% is going to be. Okay, here we go. So that's 65,670 is a 2%.
okay.
It's a difference of $644.
And what would the bottom line be changed to?
It's the difference of what? I didn't hear that.
$644.
$600.
So, yep. So the bottom line would now be $135,023.
Um, 135,000 and what?
$23.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the budget for the town clerk tax collector's office in the amount of $135,023. Is there a second?
Ira second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Uh,
Can you give me the figure of what it was going to be if it's 2%?
that figure is $65,670.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Please signify by saying aye. Constantino.
Constantino, no.
Hog, no.
Jessamine, yes. Ira.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon.
Scanlon, yes.
The motion carries.
Okay.
Okay, the next section is finance. Tim,
Yes, what I was going to say is, when this is done, as you know, in our town report, we show what our request is, what the selectmen voted, and what the budget committee voted. So as this is filled out, you'll actually see her 3% request here, but you'll see in the selectmen column the 65,670, and then
Yep.
whatever the committee votes on. So just keep that in mind, because
well, for me, this is not about the job that the town clerk tax collector is doing. I personally can't vote to approve more than 2%. That's just me. It's not about Cindy. It is about Cindy, but I have no animosity towards Cindy, certainly.
so in the finance department, you've got the budget committee expenses, audit, my salary, the treasurer's, deputy treasurer, supplies, postage, printing, and training dues, and then our short-term interest, which I reduced significantly because of our 1% plan for this next year. And then also in long-term debt, that reflects what our actual is for the debt principal reduction, and in the debt interest on long-term bonds, again, keep in mind that's based on the plan that I discussed last week. So there's only there won't be any more than $51,000 of interest on the new PD in 2021, and then we pay more interest in 2022 along with one principal payment, and then we go to full payments in 23. So it's stair steps from 21 to 22 to 23. And the bottom line for all of the finance and debt is $367,209.
I would make a motion to fund the finance department in the amount of $367,209. Is there a second? Oh no, wait a minute. I skipped one. Sorry. We're just voting on the 126.76, correct, Tim?
876. Well, I break it out. I mean, there's really nothing. Well, however you like.
Okay. No, all right. I'll make a motion to fund the finance department in the sum of $367,209. Is there a second?
Constantino, second.
Discussion. Is there any discussion? Questions?
May I just make a
John?
comment?
Sure. What's your
Oh, me?
comment?
Oh, okay. Sorry. I want to let you know that we were approved for the long-term bond, and that we have up to 120 days to close. So we'll be targeting closing once the building is finished.
Nice
Yay.
job.
Good news. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Constantino.
Constantino, yes.
Fog, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon.
Scanlon, aye.
Okay. There we
Okay.
go. Information technology.
Okay, so we have salary, hardware, software, services, communications, and supplies. Everything that I broke down in great detail for you last week, if you recall, and provided you with a separate sheet showing the breakdown by department, which you also see here in the notes. And I guess the one caveat here is that the communications overlap will that will be a one-time thing. That $1,188 in the communications line, that's just basically keeping our existing services in place as we switch over. It shouldn't be any more than that, and I believe that's it. And if I can find ways of reducing our costs in any way, shape, or form, I think you all know that I am always on the lookout for that, and I hope there's some way of doing that this next year. But I think that's a solid budget, $104,706.
I have a question.
Pat?
If we were to ask you to cut that budget by 2%, what would you cut out?
By 2%. I can't cut out communications. I guess I'd have to cut somewhere in services and hardware. Possibly software. I could possibly cut out some in software. 2%.
Software is down 5%. Services are down almost 7 right now. How far back do we trim services? I mean, that's what we do is we supply services.
So 2% would be basically $2,100. It's $2,094. Did that answer your question, Pat?
Mm, not
I
really.
would make a motion at
Didn't-
this time to fund the information technology department in the amount of $104,706. Is there a second?
Fog, second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes.
John?
Yeah, I think, Tim, in all respect, you do a great job with this and keep everything running good and smooth and make excellent recommendations. My concern is by an alarming number. I think that we received an email where the software and all of the licenses has just grown and grown and grown. And an email went out to a lot of people, and it was also on NPR on the cost of operating our police department in Tilton. The NPR, I think it was $630 per capita, right around there. And I stand corrected if it's off a little bit. But on top of that, there was an additional fund that brought up to, I think it was $744 per capita to operate our police department right now. So if you have 4 people in your household, you're talking almost $3,000 for your household for that. And a lot of it's tied up in IT. I think we need to look across the board where we can save money and get our budget for the police department down some so that we're not triple what the average is of every other town and city in this state. So I think I'd like to go and possibly, if we could, table this and go back and take a good look at it and see if we can come up with some better numbers. So that's my thought on it.
Okay, if I were
You
to,
motioning that, John?
Um,
We
well,
already have
You
I'd
want
like
a
to hear
motion to
more
table?
comments from other selectmen and possibly to table it before I did.
Anybody else?
Well, technically, we have a motion on the table already, right?
Do, but he's making a motion to table that motion.
Got it. Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
understand that.
I mean, I haven't made that motion. I just would like to hear how other people feel about that budget, if there's any other comments.
I have a comment. The amount per capita is misleading because if you divide the number for the police station by the amount of residents, it does indeed come up to 662 or whatever dollars, man, woman, and child, and but the residents only pay half of that. So it really isn't that much because the businesses pay the other half. Now, I don't know if that's the exact breakdown anymore. It used to be the business interests at our per thousand rate paid over 50% of the taxes. Tim, is that not correct?
yeah, it's slightly over 50.
There you go.
We're,
So
we're
that
still
cuts that
paying the
number in half, which is still way high. Peter?
John's correct with the 653 per capita. That's for every person. The businesses are still contributing, but for every person in Tilton, it's over $600.
It's
That's
actually
true, but they're not paying the
744.
entire $600.
The number is actually 744, and that average across the state, all these other towns that are in that average also have businesses. For instance, if you take Hampton, which is very similar in size to us, has a big businesses in that, as well as, you know, the the summer um, rush of people and that they have to take care of. So all the other numbers that are in that average also have businesses too. And the number is actually 744 because at one time, a few years ago, we separated out all of the IT costs from the police department and put it into a separate, or into the IT budget. So it's not really showing up on their budget. However, it is directly related to them.
So is there a motion to be made?
I'm going to make a
There is
motion
a
to
motion
table
on
it.
the table currently.
I'm going to make a motion to table and until next meeting. See if we
Is
can
there a
come up with
second?
some numbers.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. And we've discussed it. Is there any further discussion? I see. Okay, hearing none. On the motion to table, please signify by saying aye. Pat Constantino,
Constantino, yes.
Yes.
Og, Jessamine, no. Ira,
Pyra, yes.
And
Scanlon,
Scanlon, yes.
the motion passes.
So
Uh,
if I may ask a question, because not much is going to change between now and next Tuesday unless I have some direction. So you want to lower the IT budget. Is it the 2% that you're looking to do? Or do you want to have a more in-depth discussion about it? I guess I'm looking for guidance so that I can prepare adequately for next week's or the 29th.
John,
I guess the idea is, just to look and see if there's anything at all. There's, if it can't, it can't. But let's try at least and see if there's something that we do. And if we can't, like I said, that's what it is.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I don't know if everybody else agrees.
I agree with you, John.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
Is
So,
there any, okay, so Tim,
sorry.
moving on.
Yep. Got it. I'll do what I can. So
Thank you.
Just keep in mind it's end of month, end of year, and it's getting dicey. So, but I have some ideas. In land use, so you have the land use coordinator, the technician, the additional hours for the technician. Everything else pretty much stayed the same with the exception of adding 2 alternates to the stipends. And as you know, the Conservation Commission lowered their budget some. And then we will encumber the $6,000 that you approved last week for economic development. That'll flow from that line into 2021. But we won't have to raise and appropriate it. So the bottom line for the land use budget is $127,156.
Would make a motion to fund the land use department in the sum of $127,156. Is there a second?
I'll second that,
Okay.
Scanlon.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Pat?
Is there any way that we can ask the Conservation Commission to see if they're in any way, shape, or form, as we did with the IT budget, to go back and see if there's something that they can lower as well there, whether it be brush removal or property maintenance, whatever. I'm just reading from their list, but perhaps that department. I'm looking over the land use department itself, and I'd like to see a reduction.
In what specifically?
Anything in land use, going right down the budget, I'd love to see a reduction. I'd like to see a vote on a reduction on the budget. I think it's really important this year, particularly with the police department coming in. And I know we put a lot of focus on the police department, but that in 2021 and 2022, we're going to get slammed. And I think if we can try to keep the most simplest of things and perhaps maybe not have it this year, that would be great. And I'm not picking on the Conservation Commission, I'm going down the line.
We can ask. I see a lot of salaries and stipends. I don't see much other things that can be cut. Some brush removal maybe, or that's salmon run maintenance. Consultation expenses, $1,000. I don't know what that means, and I don't know what they use. Suppose we can ask.
I don't either. That's why I'm asking. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, John.
Yeah, I think, the Conservation Commission did cut back significantly, on what they could. But as Pat said, things are coming up tough, and asking anybody to take a second look at their budget and see where they could save even a little bit will make us a lot better and a lot more whole next year. I don't see any harm.
Why don't we just send all of this stuff back to the department heads and say, tighten it up? Seems like that's where we're headed for the most part. We've got some big ticket items coming up, Public Works and the police department. There's probably some savings there What do you think? Pat?
Well, that's definitely my plan. I think that I don't know if Public Works can tighten up. That's the one that maybe he could. I heard him at the budget committee and went through it line by line. I think that there is room at the PD definitely to tighten up a little bit. Now that we know they're not getting 3 uniforms instead of 2. Uh, there's So yes, my answer to you, Joe, is yes. Maybe we can send out a department head and say have it back by the 27th to us all, and then the 29th we can look at it.
Quite frankly, I concur. That's why I want to go through the budget line by line, and talk about each individual request, because I want to cut the budget. If there's any way that, because every single year in the last 10 years I've been a selectman, we always have money at the end of the year. And I've always heard that, yeah, well, we kind of budget for the worst case scenario. And if we need extra salt and we don't have money for salt, that could be an issue, except for we do have this bottom line budget. I would personally like to see it run tighter and leaner. How about you, Peter?
Cut wherever we can. Looking at the land use, I'm just wondering, increasing the support salary at a point where we're closed except for appointments, everything, to me, that line should probably stay flat for this year. If you want to increase it, look for a future year.
Yeah, just as a for instance. How about you, Peter? Eric, sorry.
Or is there a compromise between cutting 4 hours? Because she's already, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't she already been increased for 4 more hours a week this year? So now you're gonna
That is
cut.
correct. That is
So now,
correct.
just based on what Peter said, now you're gonna cut her hours again, back down to what they were.
So we've increased her
Kathleen?
hours before we approved the money to pay for it.
That was something we discussed earlier this
Yeah,
year.
that happened during the performance reviews.
Right.
Okay, I'm just looking at
So,
COVID and the way we're shut down. I think we can cut some of these increased hours.
so let's get the various department heads to look at their budget with an eyeball towards saving some pennies. Me personally, I don't want to have any money budgeted that we don't need. John, how about you?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said, we always put a little extra in there for worst case scenarios. Well, we're at a worst case scenario right now. We have people who are going to have some difficulties with taxes and household finances, and we really need to this year take a good look and say, well, this is the worst case scenario. We need to cut back where we can without removing services. I think, go over it again and resubmit it, and on all departments, not just
Yeah.
the,
So
yeah.
if I may comment on something, so we really, compared to a lot of towns that I look at, we do budget very lean. We don't have any planned fund balance, anything like that. Where we have seen those savings have generally come either from one of two places, either projects that we intended to do but didn't or couldn't do for some reason. That was in the town hall maintenance and repairs line for several years, the carpeting. And then the other area has been when someone has left our employment during the year and it's taken months to replace them, or they weren't replaced at all during that calendar year. And then the last one was when we had someone in the military and they were eligible to return, we were required to budget for them during that time. So most of that has been generated through personnel savings. And of course, at the beginning of the year, you don't know, someone planning to leave, is there going to be a change? But that's really where those savings have amounted, and come from in the past. I'm sure every department could, take another stab at it, sharpen the pencils, do something. But I mean, my personal opinion, and I don't like spending any money more than anybody else. I think there are a couple of opportunities in the police budget. Sorry, Chief. I mentioned gas and diesel last night. There's a lot of lines that you're going to see that there's some room in. But keep in mind, you also just a year ago added the 9th officer. So we saw some of those increases, as a result of, all the things that sort of go along with a new officer. But I did want to just point that out, because I think it's an important distinction just to keep in mind that, when someone leaves, there's usually, months or, some period of time. And that time is all being saved by the town until there's a replacement. And sometimes they're less expensive when they come in.
Those larger items that lesser insurance plans at the police department, anywhere within the town, family plan, employee leaving, all of a sudden we have an extra $100,000 or whatever. I get that. You can't really plan for that so
Right.
much, but any other lines that we can save money on, I want to save money. And maybe it's a gamble, but I just feel that 2021 has the potential to be sad for a lot of people. And John mentions the per capita taxes, and I hear you. Even though the businesses are having a tough time too, and they pay half of that freight. And we represent people, but we're also a business community and have to represent them on some level as well. So I wanna take a look personally. There's some things we're stuck with, but if we can save $1,000, I want to save $1,000 this year. I really want to do.
Well, take for
So
instance,
Steve,
we just added, not of what, a year, 2 years, our dispatch. We pay Belknap County for dispatch, so we pay for dispatch out of our taxpayers' money, and we pay for Belknap County dispatch.
Mhm.
So
correct.
we may want to take another look at that.
It was a service thing, and maybe we can't afford to sell that service right now. I don't know, but we need to take a look at that, and there's a number of other opportunities. I know there are.
Right.
I
And
think one of the other,
nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. Our employee structure could be completely different. It's just God's will, if you will. So can we just send that back, Tim?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I can readdress with every department head. That's fine. And
Please. And I'm sorry to nitpick, but
I'll take a stab myself where I think you can see some savings. But in any case, do you want to proceed forward with what we're doing at this point, or do you want to just wait until you?
Yes,
I
we
would
got
say
outside
no.
agencies. No, we got outside agencies we can vote on and get that out of the way.
That's true. You're absolutely right.
Okay. So we'll skip over these others and come back to you.
Yeah. Culture and recreation. Okay, so that's $190,000. Is there Any comments about the culture and recreation budget?
Wait, can I just ask a quick question because I'm looking at something?
Absolutely.
Where do I find what we pay Belknap County for dispatch?
In their
It's,
Belknap County budget.
yeah, it's not a separate line item. We just paid the county last week. I forget the exact amount, $700,000 approximately. And as a
It's a
portion of
percentage,
that,
right?
well, within that, it pays for the expenses of the dispatch.
It's not a separate line item, Eric. It's within
The county portion of our tax bill.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
have to ask specifically what line item it is in the budget, and they'll tell you.
Thank you.
Yep. I would make a motion to accept uh, park maintenance, $190,051 for the culture and recreation.
Is there a second? I will second for the purpose of discussion. Discussion. Pat?
The only thing that I have in question is the park maintenance island, and that's gone up to 19,500. I'm not quite sure why that's. Oh,
That's
I
the,
know why. That's the engineering.
that's
It's the
Right,
bridge.
right.
the
Got it.
bridge.
That
Yeah.
would be the
And
bridge.
then in park commission expenses, that's essentially the covering the roof,
Yep.
doing the roof at Riverfront Park.
Right.
The new items there, well, I don't know that it's necessarily new, but the 150th committee changed their name to the Tilton Events Committee and went from 5,000 down to 1,000.
And is that because they intend to finish out the year come June? I think it's in June that we started this.
No, I think it's a whole different purpose. Jeannie, I'm sure could.
Yeah, no, the 150th committee is done with the celebration of the 150th birthday of Tilton. It's just now going forward, putting together a committee. If you remember, that committee at the time wanted to change their name and continue on organizing events in Tilton.
What kind of events are you talking about here?
So one example is the zombies, that they did at Halloween. Going forward into 2021, we've been talking about doing more events that help downtown businesses. We've been talking about doing some veterans events like Memorial Day and things that we've heard from folks, why don't we do more of? And so $1,000, I mean, that's, if you want to cut it, that's fine. It's not a lot. It's almost, if you will, seed money to attract other funds from other folks who might want to step up and help fund events.
Are there any other questions, concerns, or comments? John?
No, I looked at, in the events thing, it's kind of important to keep people in our town viable and keep people interested and engaged in the community. And I think like Jeannie said, the $1,000 is seed money to make sure that things are going to happen, and then other people contribute. So I really appreciate that they're keeping that going.
Peter, Eric, either one?
I'm
No,
good.
Peter?
I'm good.
Eric?
I'm good.
Okay, I make a motion to fund to fund culture and recreation lines 860 through 936
I
in
think
the
there's a
total.
motion already on the board.
Yeah,
What?
Pat made that motion.
I already made the motion, Joe.
Well, then never mind. Seconded it. Was it me?
And I think you seconded it.
There you go. I knew it was a good idea. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Constantino.
Constantino.
Yes.
Jessamine is a yes.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon,
Ellen?
yes. Yes.
Okay. So outside agencies, Park Cemetery, Lakes Region Planning,
Can I
Planning Action. Yeah.
make a suggestion? The budget committee um, made some moves last night, and I filled in for John, and they did vote on a couple. The one that they're very resistant on doing is community action, which I have no idea, but um, I will tell you the ones that they are not funding. Just for information purposes, they are not
Should be on the chart.
no, they're not funding CASA, New Beginnings, Lakes Region Mental Health, and Child and Family Services Waypoint. And they didn't Lakes Region Planning because it's a contract with us in um, animal control, Birch Hill. But they voted last night for Youth Assistance Program to fully fund them, and they voted for Pines Community Center to level fund them from last year, so that would be the 67,250. So if it's okay with you, I'll make a motion to um, do a couple at a time, and then we can just go from there. Uh, vote.
Okay.
I'll vote. Make a motion to um, approve $6,000 Park Cemetery, 3,531 for Lakes Region Planning, $48,251 for Youth Assistance Program, and $12,000 for Community Action Program. Take it from there.
I'll second that, Scanlon.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Pat, would you like to open the discussion?
So Lakes Region, I didn't say Lake Region, I'm sorry. Youth Assistance Program is the court diversion program and has been very active in our community. And they went over the numbers in the budget. They've um, very closely, and my own personal feeling is they warrant it, and they're very, very helpful to the town of Tilton. Community Action Program is, let me get my list here so you all know what they do. They're the fuel assistance program. They're the electric assistance program. They're weatherization program. They're the USDA commodity surplus. They're neighbor helping neighbor. They're the homeless and housing. They're the CARES COVID-19 housing grant. They're Head Start. They're senior farm market nutrition program. These are all things that they service here in Tilton. The Women's Infant Children WIC program, family planning, the commodity supplemental program, the senior companion program, which they've done over 1,000 hours here in Tilton, which is $16,528 worth. Meals on Wheels, the people that they serve are 30. Meals served is 8,628. That's a $69,000 source. Community dining, the people they serve is 56 on every given day. Meals served is 3,318, and that's a $26,000. And the rural transportation system is still going, and the people they serve is 28, and they've done 1,177,000. And total services to the town of Tilton is $578,272, and they're asking for a contribution of $12,000. I mean, they've been a backbone for us and our seniors and disabled people for a very long time in Tilton. And other towns, and part of the budget committee's concern is other towns get way more services. If you look at the list, there'll be people like Guilford um, gave $10,000 for 270,000 services received, and Laconia gave 48,500 for $997,862 in services. But I asked that question over and over again. If Tilton needed $997,000, would we receive $997,000? And the answer would be yes, we would. If there were more services needed in town, we would get them. Simple as that. It's just we're lucky enough not to have needed them yet. So they're very, very, very efficient, and you all know that they supply our director at the senior center for 20 hours as well. We could not afford to pay a program director for that amount of money.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Peter Fogg, would you like to discuss?
Yes, my big concern when I look at CAP, we got a spreadsheet that showed different regions through the state with the towns with contribution and benefits. And nowhere on that sheet was Tilton listed, including Lakes Region or where Franklin is. But then there's a separate sheet that lists everything under the sun for benefits that gets us way up there now. I'm trying to see the numbers. I'm seeing fuzzy math from everywhere.
Well, you are a math expert. Fuzzy math isn't good. How about you, Eric?
You mentioned, Pat, you mentioned Head Start. I didn't think there was a Head Start program still in this area.
They have a Head Start. There's 12 children in Head Start. Value of the services is 152,590. So Arches is a supplemented program too. I mean, is it the Arch School, the kindergarten over there? It's
Is
on a
Head Start at the Pines?
no, it's the one over by the Masons. That's on a it's financial,
The Ark Preschool.
right?
John?
Pat, did they, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they also were helping with us to get the senior bus and connected us with it, and also on developing the job, or not the description, but the procedures and trainings and all that.
Yes, John. They on a daily basis, almost. Well, not on a daily basis, but 2 or 3 times every couple of weeks, we work with them on one or two issues. They helped us with the driver's manual, the policy. They helped Jeannie and I procure the senior van that we have, the senior bus that we have, and how to go about it. They talked to us initially on the pros and cons about getting a new one with the 5310 monies as opposed to getting one from Granite State Independent Living, and they're the ones that gave us the heads up on the availability and who has what van, and they steered us in the right direction to Granite State Independent Living, in which we procured the bus that we have now. So they're a very good working partnership with us. I also work with them on establishing people that come home with disabilities from the hospitals. They have a program that work on ramps. Um, I recently worked on one not in this town, but they came out and helped build that. But they have done that in recent years with people that have disabilities. And it's called the Mr. Fix It program. And Mr. Poison, who used to be at the Tilton Winnisquam School, is a part of that program. And so they used to come out and do that as well. And we used to interact with that.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay. My personal feeling is that I've seen these programs in action, and I think we're getting the people they serve. It's invaluable, but the town as a whole, as a community, is a better place because of these groups. I'm not sure about the fuzzy math. I do look at what we get for our buck, though, and especially with community action, we basically cut them in half um, over a period of years. So in
Well,
this day and age, I know that they're doing more with less money from us anyway than they used to get.
Joe,
So
let me correct you on that one. A couple of years ago, it was brought to their attention that they were charging the town of Tilton much more money than any other town in getting the
I
services.
remember,
They
I
brought that
remember,
right. So they
it was
corrected
the
that and they apologized profusely because they should have looked at that way before Susan Demers took over. Pam Jolivet should have taken a closer look at that, and nobody took a closer look at it. And it was brought to their attention by the budget committee a couple years ago. And therefore, we used to do around 23 or $24,000, and they brought it down to $12,000 and said we can do it for this amount of money. And so they did take a thorough look at it and say, okay, we can do these services for this amount of money. And that's where that cut in half went. The budget committee brought it to their attention and they took a look at it and came back, did their due diligence and cut the monies. And now
thing.
they
I missed part of that when it happened.
They had a
But
cash
good.
cow for years, and then they got caught on it, and they had to reduce it.
Yeah, you were the one who brought that to my attention at the time, I think, Peter. Well, good enough, and I stand corrected. I got nothing left to say, apparently. So we have a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion on the motion? John?
No,
Okay, short and sweet. Love it, John. Um, roll call vote.
Constantino, yes.
Hog, no.
Jessamine, yes.
Pyra, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Cameron?
Yes.
The motion carries. Okay. You wanna take it again, Pat?
Sure, I will make a motion for $12,572 for Franklin visiting nurses, for $5,500 for the Birch Hill Kennels, and for $67,250 for Pines Community Center, and for $2,000 for the summer concert.
How much did you
Is there
say?
a second?
Sorry, what did you say for Pines?
67,250 level funding them from last year. They want a $2,500 raise.
Okay. Sorry, thank you. I'll second it.
Is that money going to raises, Pat?
John cannot probably answer that one. I wasn't there when Pines came in.
John?
I do not have that in front of me at this moment. No,
It's their budget, Joe. They just move it among lines.
It is a bottom line budget. Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no other discussion, We'll have a roll call vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Constantino?
Yes.
Bog, yes.
Yeselman? Yes.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon,
Scanlon?
yes.
Okay, the motion carries. There's a new number involved in that. Is there, Tim? Well, let's wait till the end. Let's wait
I
till
was,
the end.
I don't because I'm going to get those. I wasn't able to follow every single line that was talking about, and I was
Well,
working on
Okay,
something else.
right. So it's
well,
you got them so far.
B&A,
You got the V&A now. Yep.
I have to move. I don't have a lot of screen real estate here, so 12,572.
Yep. So then my next motion would be to
animal control too was.
Animal
yeah,
control.
5,500. Yeah, 2,000 for the concerts.
I was working on your thing for the IT budget.
my motion would be not to fund Lakes Region Mental Health and not to fund the Child and Family Services and New Beginnings in CASA.
Bog, second.
Okay, so Pat, why do you recommend non-funding those agencies?
The agencies, according to their documents that they supplied to the budget committee, have lots of resources behind them, some millions of dollars in excess. Um, and a lot of them had PPE recovery on like Lakes Region Mental Health had upwards of $300,000 in PPE recovery monies. Um, CASA was asking for 1,575,000, but then uh, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but they had almost $1 million in their coffers.
Yeah, the budget committee, I can tell you this year, the budget committee has gone over everything just completely and kept in mind that we need to save money somewhere. And the ones that they zero funded were the ones that were financially able to do without us for this year, was the thought of the budget committee. And I concur with them. I'd love to help everybody out, but those were the ones that we all felt that they would do just fine without us this year.
And that includes the New Beginnings,
Yes.
correct, Pat?
Yes.
You see, I'm leery about the mental health one, although I'm glad that they got 300 grand in the PPE recovery or CARES Act money, whichever it was. But New Beginnings, I always objected to that one, and everybody always outvoted me. That's all I've got to say. And is there any other discussion on the motion?
Well, I'm with you, Joe, because I have always in the past voted for it, always, and
Yeah,
fought very, very hard for it. But there's
you have.
multiple locations now, and there's multiple different funding sources that they have. And so that's why this year I found that it would be just for this year
Hmm.
I think that they would be okay. My only opinion, listening to it.
Okay.
One trend I
Uh,
did notice with the budget committee is that a lot of focus was on specific agencies that directly help just our community, or step up to the plate for our community and have done a lot for it, as opposed to just a broad, helping out. It's it's difficult, and nobody's saying that any of these other agencies don't provide, a very worthy services for people. It's just what we're getting directly from our town and really benefit a lot from.
Well, makes sense to me. Is there
Mm.
any other discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Constantino.
Constantino, I.
Yes.
I'm an aye. Eric,
Yes, please.
John,
And Scanlon, aye.
the vote is unanimous. The motion carries. And that's all of them, right, Pat?
I believe so.
Did you get Child and Family Services the first time around?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. There's
All right.
four of them.
So,
There's four that we did.
yeah. Okay. And at this point, the budget has been gone through. That was the end of it, I do believe. And we'll be looking forward to seeing the completed papers next on the 27th. 27th? No,
29th.
29th.
Joe, if I might
Yeah, yeah.
have just 1 minute. So the reason why I was working on something while you all were talking about the outside agencies, looking at the
Mhm.
IT, but because I'm very pressed for time between now and the end of the year, and so in going through it, I was looking at the utility of what we get. Where is it here? What we get, the bang for the buck, and in terms of software, there, unless we reduce some of the modules that the PD uses, and we just added evidence, IMC is not possible to reduce without taking out some type of module. Avatar
What are the
assessing.
consequences of that?
Well, the consequences could mean a lot more time spent administratively by the officers as opposed to relying on the software. But I wouldn't be able to give you an answer on that tonight. I think that is a real difficult one. Security software cannot do without, have to have that. The upgrades, I could probably pare that back a little bit. The avatar assessing, we rely on very heavily. Tax collect clerk, those are absolute must-haves. Unismart accounting, if I had the time to migrate to something else, we could, but short of going into a more of a consumer type of accounting package, this is about the cheapest fund-based accounting package, and anything that the town would go to, we would have significant costs in terms of conversion and that sort of thing. So the two areas that are more in their infancy and probably more problematic and less bang for the buck would be the two iWork products, permitting and code enforcement of $2,700 and work order of $2,000. So I would if I would remove both of those for a total of $4,700, and I would try to leave the rest of the budget the same.
So what does that change the bottom line to?
So 1 second.
If we cut iWorks,
$100,000.
100,006
That's correct.
even.
Well, I'm sure I can find the 6 somewhere. I can take out another $6.
No. If that's what you can take out, that's what you can take out. So, Peter, you want to talk about iWorks?
No, I'll pass.
Okay. We're using that software now, correct, Tim?
So we're using the code and permitting software. That's right. Although, as I alluded to last week, I wanted to really look to see whether we're really using it to the extent that we had originally anticipated, whether it's really doing the job for us. And my gut feel is we're not getting what we expected out of it. And that's not to say that it's not good software or good product. But if we're not getting everything that we want out of it, I would say it doesn't make sense to carry on with it, and that we would eliminate it. And with work order, this last year, seeing that we weren't getting the utility out of it, I had put that on hold, notified the company. They allowed us to continue to use it without charging us for it for this year of 2020. So, but I can go ahead and cancel both of those.
So that's $100,006 is your bottom line.
That's what it says. Yep.
Okie dokie. I'll make a motion to fund the internet technology department in the sum of $100,006. Is there a second?
Point of order.
John?
Yeah, we tabled it till next week, so I guess we would have to
Nope,
untable
we're
it.
good. We did table it until the 29th.
I just wanted to let you know that would be
Okay.
my recommendation.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that on the 29th.
Yeah,
That's fine.
great job. Wonderful.
Yeah, good job, Tim. I agree with it.
Yep.
Yep. That's what I love to hear. Okay, so budgetarily, we're done and ready to move on. We still have selectmen's reports happening. Well, no, next is what's up Tilton. Eric
Excuse me,
Pirate.
excuse me, Mr. Chairman. You still
Yeah,
have to go over the warrant articles.
right this second.
What's that?
Oh,
Well, it
and
was,
warrant. Okay. I missed that part. We all have copies of the warrant articles. First two are standard.
Would you like me to put that up on the screen, Jeannie?
what's that?
Would you like me to put that on the screen?
Or if you want.
They're gonna give me a brighter light bulb.
They're working here. We'll go ahead. It's going to take me a minute here.
Okay.
To find it, and,
I sent you all a draft of the 2021 town warrant. We're still waiting after January 29th before we see the zoning amendments, but wanted to get some of these in front of you that I thought maybe you might be able to approve tonight. You won't be able to do all of them tonight, but we can at least knock some of them off. The first, or I should say Article 3, has to do with moving the boundary lines of Tilton Island. And I'm waiting on language from John Tegg, who's working on that. You recall that's agreement we have with Northfield to include Tilton Island in the town of Tilton and in the county of Merrimack. So that language will be coming. Article 4, Tim and I had a conversation today with Penny Touche at DRA about identifying the money that would be the proceeds from the sale of the old police station to go towards paying down the debt of the news station. So Tim had just kind of quickly thought that might be $375,000 when all was said and done. Tim, you're
275,000,
275?
275, right.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense since the sale price was 315, right? So we still want to check on the language of that to make sure it's right. So I'm not going to ask you to look at that tonight. Article 5 has to do with the Tilton Senior Center Expendable Trust Fund. And I talked with the executive, I guess, director, executive. Pat, what's your title?
Chair
Chair
of
of
the
the
executive committee.
committee. And I don't know if you want to speak to this, Pat, or if it just stands on its own.
Stands on its own. It's last year's. Yep.
Okay. So that one, if you're good with, we could vote on that tonight. I don't know if you want to vote as we go, or if you just want me to go through all of them first and then go back. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman?
We have an unidentified caller. Can we identify the person?
It might be me. I
Yeah.
lost internet here in the house.
Yeah.
I lost what
Yeah.
happened there.
It is John, it looks like, right, Tim?
Yes, I'm John.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right, so I'll just go through all of them and then we can go back. So the the Tilton Senior Center Expendable Trust Fund for $3,000. Article 6 has to do with the Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund, $35,000. I think it was 35 last year, and this 35,000 is to help towards the purchase of, Tim, remind me,
The sidewalk machine.
sidewalk machine. Article 7, we haven't got the number for yet. I talked to Kevin about that. He is working on it. Couple of the projects, you recall, we didn't do the south side of the sidewalks this last year because of, I think we were trying to watch the pennies because of COVID. And the other project would be the Academy Street project, but he's going to put that together and we'll be able to come back to you with that specific project list. Article 8 is the Revaluation Capital Reserve Fund, $9,000. That's Avatar contract. Article 9, this is the milfoil. Tim confirmed with Conservation Commission that I think last year was 6,000 and they said 5,000 this year, Tim.
That's correct.
And Article 10 will be the final number of the general municipal operations. So, Mr. Chairman, does the board want to vote on any of these warrant articles tonight?
Well, that's up to the board. Does anybody see anything in here that I would like to see I would like to vote on Article 5. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $3,000 to be added to the Tilton Senior Center Expendable Trust Fund previously established. Is there a second?
I heard a second.
I have a motion and a second. Do you have anything to add in on that, Pat?
No.
Okay. Any questions?
Actually, can you hold on a second? I'm trying to connect. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Yay! Internet's back up.
Okay. I motion to go forward with the senior center Article 5, and Pat seconded it.
Eric,
And we're doing
Eric
this.
seconded.
Eric seconded.
Okay, good. You have any input, John?
No, I hadn't had an opportunity to see these yet, but they're pretty much the standard ones that we have every year, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Kind of, yeah.
Is there anything new?
No, not yet.
Not on
Oh,
that one.
yes, John, there is one, and that's the one that the Article 4, which is the police station, the sale of the police station going into the principal of the debt of the
Okay.
the new police station.
Okay, yeah,
But
I
we're
guess we'll
voting
keep
on
going.
Article 5 now.
Yep.
Okay, is there any other comments on Article 5? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Constantino.
Constantino, yes.
Bug, yes.
Desmond, yes.
Ira, yes.
John?
Scanlon, yes.
Right, so that one is a yes. Article 4. Is that number correct? $375,000, Tim?
No,
It's 275, but it's, as I had mentioned, I'd like to have John Radigan just take a quick look at it after talking to Penny from DRA today. She thought that was wise, just to make sure everything is correct in the language. So
Okie
I'm not
dokie.
ready, not ready to vote on that tonight.
How about Article 3?
Nope, Article 6.
Okay, how about Article 6? Highway equipment. All right, now, you say this is for a sidewalk machine?
yes, yeah, so the plan, and I have to go back and look to double check, but the plan is it was either late 21 or beginning of 22. We'd have enough money to be able to purchase, if the board so chose to do so, one of the, like the old yellow
A
sidewalk
multi-one.
machines.
What do
Pardon me?
they call those things, Pat? Peter?
The multi one, he wants
No,
to replace it with the
no,
regular side machine that we gave up.
right. The
Okay, the
sidewalk.
multi-one is the worst choice I ever made. I
Yep.
was sold a bill of goods.
Yep.
Do we still have the multi-one?
We
Oh
do,
yeah.
and they are using it for things. They get utility out of it. But it it can't handle the heavy snow like a sidewalk machine can.
And it was sold as a snow removal machine.
Yep.
Okay, then. I make a motion to approve Article 6 as
But let's make,
presented.
but please, we're in public. Please note that it was not made. It was not done by our present public works director. Sold
No,
to
that's
us.
correct. That's
Okay.
correct. That's correct. I will say that right out straight.
Yep.
Has nothing to do with Director
Right.
Duval. Motion and a second. If there's no
Second.
other discussion beyond that,
Was there, who seconded it?
I seconded
Pat,
it.
didn't
I
you?
think. Yep, I did.
Okay, thank you.
If there's no other discussion, roll call vote.
Constantino,
All those
yes.
in favor?
Bug, yes.
Jessamine, yes. Ira?
Ira, yes.
And Scanlon, yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. Article 7?
Nope, Article 8. We don't have the numbers on Article 7.
The
That
article.
is Avatar, correct?
Yes,
What's that?
and
Yes.
Yep, and that $9,000, we started out with we have a balance of somewhere around 29,000 and change. And the total cost in 2024 is $74,280, if memory serves correctly. So, so that 9,000, if you didn't do it this year, we'd be looking at higher payments in subsequent years. So this is an even amount for each year to be able to have enough money to pay for the reevaluation in 2024.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve Article 8 as written. Is there a second?
Fog second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I had a question for Tim.
Yeah.
On-
So if we didn't approve this amount next year, then we'd have to increase our payments for the next 2 years after that, is it?
3 years.
3
Let me
years.
see. I have, let's see here. See if I can find,
Like, I can just move on to my next part of the question was, and I'm
well,
going to ask you
yeah.
to get your crystal ball out. Seeing as we're trying to like level things off next year, do you think it would be wise of us to possibly skip next year and tack it on for the 3 years after? That maybe after this will be a little bit more financial stability, or the crystal ball call.
Well, so what we're likely facing is our budget is going to automatically increase due to the debt by a certain amount each year. So you could certainly do that to try to keep this one as low as possible. And for that matter, it could be put into the operating budget the last year. If we didn't have enough in the fund, we could just budget it in the 2024 operating budget, to make sure that there were sufficient monies to pay it.
Now, is that something that we could, at the end of next year, encumber it to, if we have some money left over or something that comes in?
Not to get it into the fund. I don't believe you can encumber monies to place into a capital reserve fund.
Mm-hmm.
But it's possible that a warrant article could do that. That would remove it from. So in other words, if we had money left over at the end of the year, it went into the unassigned fund balance, that we could do a warrant article to fund it. You can see how fast my internet is here. Wow. We could have a warrant article that would fund the capital reserve, possibly from the unassigned fund balance.
So in your infinite wisdom, which I wholeheartedly trust, and you know where I'm going with this. I'm just seeing, is there any way we can, save up money, and if we got some extra, or we do good next year, maybe put it into it. I'm just a little concerned about next year.
I think
I don't know what anybody thinks.
You could skip 2021.
I don't want to kick the can down the road, but.
Well, worst case is you'd be looking at $12,000 deposits into that capital reserve in 22, 23, and 24. Do you see it on screen now?
Oh, okay.
The years.
I'm just wondering, I like the idea if we had some, we could, salt it away in the piggy bank if we got some left over next year.
Well, I hope we don't have any leftovers.
I don't know.
Well,
I'd like to hear everybody else too on it. That's all.
I don't want to get hit real hard, even harder 2 years from now,
Mhm.
personally. Anybody else?
Let's pass 8 and 9 and move on.
Well, that's the end of it if we pass 8 and 9.
Well, at this
Thank you.
point, you have a motion and a second, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah. No, we're going to have to vote one way or the other. All right. If there's no other discussion, I'm going to call the vote and we'll see what happens. All those in favor of accepting Article 8 as written, please signify by saying aye. Constantino,
Yes.
Bog, yes.
Jessamine, yes. Pyra,
Ira, yes.
Scanlon,
Scanlon, yes.
the vote, pardon me, the vote is unanimous. And that's the only other one. Oh, no, we could see if we can do 9.
Article 9.
Make a motion, we
Yep,
accept Article 9 as written.
I'll second
Bog,
it.
second.
Okay, Peter will second it. Uh, is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Constantino,
Constantino, yes.
Bog,
Yes.
yes.
Jessamine, yes. Ira, Ira,
Ira, yes.
Scanlon.
Scanlon, yes.
Okay. Now that's the last one we can vote on right now in warrant articles.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. The next thing up is Eric Pyra and What's Up Tilton. You have the floor, Eric.
All right. So if you guys all remember a couple weeks ago, or actually probably a couple months ago, we received a letter from a resident talking about lack of um, notification of stuff going to um, residents and letting them know about different things. And so what I've kind of come up with is, hold on, I have to switch here. Give me 1 second. Hey Tim, I'm logging in as a second person. Sorry, I just don't want an echo. So if you can use that one to do go into the display. So what's up Tilton is a thing that really just benefits the residents of Tilton, or it informs people about things that are going on in the town of Tilton. It's not a what's Tilton Northfield's talking or anything like that. It's an actual page versus a group where everyone comments and things get moved away. If Tim brings up my computer, I can show you what I did on Facebook, and then also to go with it is a electronic PDF type newsletter, which I also have a copy of. It's not an official thing for the town of Tilton, but I just wanted to share it with the board as something that I've been working on, and kind of just have a quick draft to go over and see what feedback was. So I don't know if Tim is able to.
I'm, hang on. Here we go.
Maybe not.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. It's coming up. Just bear with my snow here.
All right. That's on your computer?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
did you? I
I
made
had
you
it
the
up.
presenter, but I can. Oh, okay. Go right ahead.
All right. So if I click there, does everyone see that? I don't know how this works.
It's gone.
Is it Eric's computer that is the presenter?
No, we don't see anything. There's nothing on the screen except our faces.
Is he
Okay.
sharing the
I had a
screen yet?
pop-up.
Eric, which
that-
which one is your?
I had a pop-up that said EP
Eric, which
is
one
now
are
the
you?
presenter.
EP?
Yeah. Is that the one you're using?
Yeah. Well, that's the one my computer is, and I'm talking through my other one. Oh, if I click there, all right. There we go. So you can see I just did like a little newsletter. Just did a little introduction about it's not an official publication from the town, but it's a way to inform people. And obviously I can collect email addresses and send out, have people email things looking for, it could be a favorite sledding hill, it could be anything. There was a flyer for a parade that the fire department is doing tomorrow at the Veterans Home. If you go to page 2, is information about Town Hall being closed, the winter parking ban. I just put a little blurb about the Tilton Senior Center, upcoming meetings, a little thing about the library. So basically, my thought is anywhere, people from that would benefit would give information out and share that with them. And then on page 2, if I go to Facebook, I made up a Facebook page called What's Up Tilton. And again, it's putting things in one place. Yes, people can comment if they so choose. It's a picture I took this morning of the Tilton Island Bridge. Just little things about the parade. It's kind of repeating the information, but it gives people a different place to do it. With, just like that. Another thing I saw online, talked about the budget committee meeting that is last night. And just getting that information. Obviously, no one would see those things because no one knows about this meeting yet. But I just wanted to kind of get my fellow selectors' thoughts on it.
And you said that was, Eric, you said that was on a Facebook page?
It's a Facebook page versus a group. So the Tilton Senior Center has a Facebook page that has people that like it and follow it. If there was something there that was posted, I could either share that to this page or take the information and make it a separate post. It's a page versus where you go like Tilton Northfield Talking. That's a group, and as you probably all know, the comments can get carried away on there.
Well, what makes it from the comments not getting carried away on the page?
I can easily shut off comments. I can just make a post to be informational, but the post is the main feature, not necessarily comments. There's more control on a page versus a group.
How often would it be updated?
Depending on how quickly I want to do it. If there was an announcement that we wanted to get out, just give me the information. I can update it from my phone. I can update it from anywhere. Anyone can update it from anywhere. Or I can update it because I'm the only person that's on it right now. But it can be instantaneous once we start getting people to know about the page.
Well, you certainly have the right to put up any page you wanted on the internet. as long as it wasn't necessarily a Tilton sponsored thing, because if it was a Tilton sponsored thing, we'd have to put resources into it.
Right. That's all
And I am loath to just put the resources into it. I have a page for Tilton Recycling. I don't keep it up much anymore, but it was good to get information out. And that was just something I did as a resident.
right. And this is
Now,
kind of
that said, I would be glad that you got all the information that, it would be shared with you about events or what have you. So you would be up to date with your information.
As long as your information is correct. On the Tilton Senior Center here, you have them directing to call the Tilton Senior Center for a bus, and we have a special number for a bus.
well on the Tilton Senior Center Facebook page. That's the phone number that's listed.
It's incorrect.
And it needs to be maintained and updated.
And there you go. It's a difficult thing.
It's going to be very
Anybody
difficult
else,
to take that information. It's going to be incorrect.
Peter?
I'm
John?
fine.
Okay. John?
No, I like the idea of getting information available to people, and having participated in newsletters and stuff. It can be really daunting, and do that. So I guess my concern would be is that information is correct, and who that there is a very clear disclaimer that it's not by the town,
That
and
was on
that's,
the first page, I think.
yeah, like you were saying, Joe. That's it. But I like the idea of getting information.
Yeah.
Well, I put like meetings out there, the links, because people. One thing I've noticed about all these different things is no one goes on to any of these meetings. And they don't know, they don't want to, they don't care. I don't know. Trying to make information. The idea kind of got to me because the town of Northfield every week sends out an email blast that has minutes and when meetings are coming up and agendas on it that I receive, and we don't do anything. It's like again, just want to get the word out that things are going on until.
I like it.
The email, I mean, I love your enthusiasm. Again, the email telling, a weekly, that I like that better, like Northfield does, than I do putting it on a Facebook, because anybody can kind of put on a put on the Facebook page. It can also corrupt a Facebook page too.
Well, I'm the only one that can put right now. I'm the only one that can put onto the Facebook page, unless someone comments. So the information is. I was trying to do across because not everyone gets Facebook, but if they got an email in their inbox, hopefully they'll read it.
Right. Not everybody joins Facebook, but a lot of people have these emails.
Right. That's what I'm trying to capture as many people, as big an audience as I can. The nice thing about emails is you can set up when they're sent out. So if I have the email set ready to go and I want it on first thing Monday morning, out any time set is forward.
I'm more apt to look at an email than I am a Facebook, because I'm rarely on a Facebook.
Yeah, the concern I would have, and I like what you're doing and everything. If there was somebody else, Joe, well, let's not even say Fred, because we have no Freds. Fred decides to help out and do this, and then Fred gets pissed off and gets disgruntled and then turns it into a bad page. And I'm not saying that you would do that, Eric, but you understand what I'm getting at. What control would the town have about this now going out to everybody?
Well, that's the same thing if you hire a independent contractor and you get the contract and they get pissed off at you. What's going to stop them from doing the same thing? There has to be a level of trust there.
I say start it and see how it goes. Anybody object?
I don't object. I would like to be consulted when if anything for the senior center is posted, just so that I can double check, make sure the information is correct. Because there's just a lot of people out there that I got a call from CAP saying that everybody's directing it to the before I saw this, directing the bus to the Tilton Senior Center, and I corrected it because she had it up on the wall, up on the senior center. So, I need to follow up on that, and we caught it a couple of weeks ago. That's how I know it's out there, incorrect.
I'm going to rely on you as my contact for the senior center to provide information to me. So, and if I see something, I'll run it by you. But that's kind of how I do it. If I see it on a Facebook page, I assume it's relatively correct. But
And maybe a disclaimer or something that says that it's an independent page and the views and the information here.
there is that.
You got that?
Yeah.
I like
Well,
it.
it says a page to find on the Facebook. It says a page to find out what's happening in Tilton, New Hampshire. This is not an official page for the town of Tilton. And then on the newsletter, in the first paragraph, it says this letter is not an official publication for the town of Tilton.
Yeah, and then any errors or incorrect information is not.
Right.
Disclaimer.
I do like the idea.
I like it.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
the
me
idea.
too.
All right.
Yeah, I do. I like the enthusiasm. I applaud you trying to find the time to do that.
Yeah.
We need to put you on more committees, I think.
Yeah. No, because this one I could do from home. So.
I'll second that, Pat.
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
All right. Moving right along. We're at Selectmen's reports. Pat Constantino.
Well, you got most of my budget committee meeting last night. I did speak at the Rotary, asking for help with recruiting bus drivers. It was well received. Word's going to get out there. I did speak with the RSVP program. I also spoke with Service Link. So that's out there. I got a couple of calls today. I did talk with Kevin. So on the plowing issue, what a job they've done. And did everybody see the email that we just got from a resident on the plowing? By the way, I think that at least should be read into the minutes.
What would you like to do that?
Sure, let me just pull it up here. It says, kudos, thank you to the crew for doing a great job on the roads today. A special thanks to the person who does Caliph Hill Road. He did a great job by helping to clear the intersection of Caliph and March Roads, which helped an elderly gentleman who had been marooned there for over an hour to make it up to the hill and into Samberton. We appreciate all the fine work that Kevin and his staff do on a regular basis. Regards, Chuck Mitchell. So that should be
Okay.
in the records that came in today.
What
So,
about the other email?
uh, yep, there is another email. Thank you. There is another email here. 16 Morrison
Morrison.
Morrison Avenue. Get out. How come I can't get back to the original? Here it is. I hope this email finds you well. I am hoping you will be able to address my concerns with the town plow continuously plowing me into my house, which is a hazard. This happens year after year, and I strongly believe it is done with malicious intent. If there was an emergency or fire, I could not quickly exit the property. I sincerely hope this will be appropriately addressed. 16 Morrison Avenue.
I sent a copy of this to Kevin. I'm sure he's got several copies by now.
Yep. And then she wrote back, and you did explain that to her, and then she wrote back and said, "Thank you. I appreciate you addressing this. I work for, I'm not going to name the company, and unfortunately, as a result of the pandemic, we are working extended hours and unable to attend. Again, I appreciate you reaching out to me and promptly addressing this issue."
Well,
So,
without Kevin here, we can't hardly address it.
right, not sure that was ever done malicious intent at all, but uh,
I would
I
doubt it.
Morrison Avenue has had a considerable amount of problems in that area over the years, and we all know where those issues are. But you know, it's been an extremely, extremely difficult storm for anybody to weather through. We 3 to 6 inches are I don't know where they went. They
Well,
quadrupled.
that was first thing this morning.
Yeah, that was like at 2 a.m. All right, so
Yeah.
I do have a non-meeting to update you on the CBA, and um, Jeannie, there was one other thing I needed to update them, and I totally forgot what it was. You know what it was? You asked me. Will I be updating the board? Hold on one second. I gotta look at my email now. Will I be asking the ZBA, the CBA? There's one other question that I need to ask Jeannie, and now that Abe Gilman is back, did we contact Abe about the parking lot? Remember the woman, the resident on School Street asked if we could change those parking spaces to overnight parking spaces, and I said that we would. I came to the board and asked if the board wouldn't mind if we um, had Abe look at his plan, because he's been updating his the parking ordinance, and he would know better. I believe that those places, the parking spots that um, this resident was speaking about as the parking spots that we had allowed Onions to park during the evening. And I don't know what time Onions closes, so did we get in contact with them, with Abe, to check it out?
Did I get in contact with Abe to ask him?
To check out the parking spaces across from where the town employees park along the Patty Cohen's building, which has now been sold.
And for the
They
purpose of allowing overnight parking?
allowing overnight parking there. And I think that there's a glitch in that, because I believe at one point not too long ago, we allowed onions to park there.
No, I did not, but I will.
Okay, I know he was on vacation at the time that came up. And then the resident wanted to come down and speak to you in further detail with it and was going to make an appointment with you.
I haven't heard from anyone.
Okay. Okay, not knowing the other thing that it was something that Jeannie and I were working on, and I can't remember it. I'm sorry. So just move on and I'll think about it. Thank you, Joe.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Peter, you're up next.
Yeah, some anecdotal observations today. When I left at 7:15-ish, Manville Road had about 4 to 6 inches of snow on it. I had to push a Mazda onto Route 3 because he was stuck. When I came home around 10:30, it still hadn't been touched. It had been touched, I think, around 5. So commuter time, there was nothing there. When I came home at 10:30, I rode a few roads. Thank God I was the only vehicle on School Street the whole way because it was plowed about one vehicle wide. Um, the east end of town, I don't know what happened. Also, I happened to follow the Peterbilt on West Main in like first gear, so I don't know if that went down. So I'm not sure what happened on DPW with today's storm.
Okay. Jeannie, can we find out the answers to these things?
So I did ask Kevin if everything was okay with the equipment, and I've been texting him back and forth all day today just to see how things were going. Said that everything was fine with the equipment, and the roads were getting plowed. So I didn't ask him specifically about Manville. Like there's a lot of snow out there today.
Yeah, watched one of the 550s turn onto Peabody Street. Couldn't make it because he didn't have enough weight. I don't know why they didn't have the Sanders full of material. I
Are
just
you
happened
sure
to be
they
driving
didn't have the
around in the
sand
middle
as
of the
full?
storm.
Are you sure there was no sand in them, Peter?
Pretty much every truck I saw in the morning had nothing in the Sanders. They were all empty.
Hmm, that's curious. Unless they had already used it.
Well, it's a tough storm because your temperature's getting too cold for salt and they don't like to use sand. So apparently they left them
Yeah.
empty.
Hmm. Well, again, that would be something that Jeannie could ask Kevin about.
I will.
Anything else, Peter?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. I was going to talk about 16 Morrison Avenue, but I'll pass. I already talked about the winter parking ban that started November 15th and remains in effect till April 15th. No parking on town streets between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. through April 15th. Thank you very much. Next up is Eric.
I know that I got up at 4:30 this morning and they plowed my road shortly thereafter. An hour later, I could barely tell they plowed my road. The only complaint I had about plowing was that because we didn't cancel craft service, the roads were a little more narrow because they were doing a conscientious effort to avoid trash barrels. So I think 93 was worse than our roads. Question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I've noticed that tonight we've had several different votes that the decision is left to Selectman Scanlon because of the way that the order is voted. I have a question. Is that order set, or can my suggestion was to be to take the order every week that we do our selectmen's reports to make that the order of voting so that the same person isn't always having the pressure of deciding the tiebreaker.
We can. I've been doing it alphabetically, but we can definitely do it in order of the selectmen's reports. Because quite frankly, that would have got John tonight anyway, but it does come down to just the same person over and over again. So
If you
going
vote your
forward,
conscience,
I
it's
will
moot.
change the order. I would change the order going forward.
It's just a thought, and I didn't know if it's allowed or not.
That totally makes sense. We don't have to do it in alphabetical order. That's just the way I chose to do it, but I like your idea.
If you're going to do that, then when we get back to the table, you need to adjust the seating every meeting.
Oh, no,
Well, when we get back to the
Go under
table, the
the
rules
rigging,
change.
the rigging stuff. If we're going
I'm
to
not,
start rotating, we might as well be.
no, not in favor of changing seating.
Yeah, say, yeah,
Once
we'll
we
do.
get back, once we get back to a regular meeting, we won't be taking roll call votes, so that won't make as much difference.
No, the Riggins rule, you don't sit next to the same people every meeting. That way it's not like you're colluding with each other. If you keep sitting next to someone different, it's hard to form the alliances. That's why they suggest that.
No, and that makes pretty good sense, I guess, except for you and I've sat together with you for years, Peter. Do you ever recall colluding?
I'm just telling, if we're going to change the voting, because if you vote your conscience, I don't care what the vote is. Put me last all the time. It's not going to change
That's
my
all
vote.
right. We'll talk about seating when we get back to that point. That's still months away, I think.
Well, I think that you ought to talk, I think you ought to get a consensus of the selectmen whether or not you change the way that you do your roll call vote too. I mean, it's only fair. One selectman is suggesting that you do it one way, and then you make a decision that you're going to do it that way. Why don't you get the
Well,
feeling
you
from
know
the rest
what?
of the selectmen?
I hear what you're saying, Pat, but I run the meeting and I can switch it up if I. The only reason that I chose roll call vote in alphabetical order was because it was easy. We go
So,
alphabetical order,
so you're
but the
going to,
order shouldn't make any difference.
so now you're going to change it based on one selectman's idea.
I don't think it requires a vote.
So you're not going to listen
Do
to
you
the,
object? Do you
okay,
object to me changing it?
I object to the way you're going about it.
It's
But
like
that's
the
okay.
Do
selectmen's
you object to
reports.
me changing it?
Let's just move on, Joe.
Okie dokie. Next up is John Scanlon.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at the solar stuff I've been bringing up for a couple months now, and distributed. I gave some copies out. I've emailed it. I gave Eric, I think, like 5 or 6 copies for planning board a while ago. Has anybody looked at it?
I have.
Yes,
I've
yes.
scanned it. Shouldn't this be
I think
coming
it's
from planning board?
My question was if anybody's looked at it. Many times they come from energy committees, they come from citizens, they come from anywhere. And the the idea is, there's we we had a big thing with the solar coming in, solar farms, and all the residents were just outraged over all this, and that there's nothing they can do, and there's no type of um, ordinance that covers it or building. So, when the selectman goes and says, okay, yeah, I'm going to help out the residents and I'm going to spend a lot of time. I'm going to do some research on it. I'm going to put it together. I send it out for comments to the select board, to conservation. I send it out to the planning, and nothing, nothing. So are we representing the people in this town and bringing forward things and working on the projects and the things that mean to them the most? Or are we just, you know, not going to ignore what they're asking for. So I'd really appreciate that if I spend time on something, it's a good wholehearted effort that at least my fellow selectmen would go and take a look at it and give me some comments on it. So what do you think? If you don't like it, that's fine. Or if there's something that you'd like to change on it. Or Joe, you're on the energy committee. You know, we got to look at this. We have to look at windmills and wind turbines because in 1 year, it can completely change the face of this town, and there's nothing that we can do about it after it's already done. We need to get acting on this, and I'm just appalled that nobody is commenting or saying a word. The next thing is enforcing the parking. I don't think it should be up to residents to call in if there's people parked on the street that are blocking the plows. It would be nice if it's, especially in a storm of this magnitude, that they don't rely on the residents for enforcement. And I think, can we do a legal non-public regarding something that came up today?
We are going into non-public, so we can bring it up at that time.
Okay, thanks. That's it.
And if I could just say, John, if you could let me know under what non-public, so Joe can read that at the time.
It's legal.
The, uh,
Okay. Next up is the town administrator's report. Jeannie, you have the floor.
All right. So you got my weekly update. Several action items, the HRA, COBRA retiree rates and plan design is up for signature. You sign this every year. It's just a standard document. And it only had a space for one signature like it always has. It comes from Health Trust. So I'm asking the board to please, and I sent you all a copy of it so you can look at it, asking the board to authorize the chairman to sign it.
Is there a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion to.
Motion, we authorize the chair to sign the HRA COBRA retiree rates and plan design form.
I'll
Is there a
second.
second? We have a motion and a second by Selectman Pyra. Is there any discussion on the motion?
We should not be having only one signature again. It's disenfranchising us. We should send it back and say 5 signatures, please. We're a municipality. We have 5 selectmen. It could not be one signature. We have done this way too many times this year.
Okay. If you'll please make note, Jeannie. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Constantino.
No.
Fogg, yeah.
Jessamine, yes. Pyra. Pyra.
Ira, yes.
And Scanlon.
Scanlon, yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Jeannie.
The second item, which it came in late, this was from Health Trust as well. I did send it to you. It was the last attachment I sent you. It had to do with the flexible benefits plan, the section 125. Basically the carryover limit that started in 2020 that needed to be approved. And again, has one signature. And I'm asking the board to authorize the chairman to sign it.
Is there a motion to be made?
Again, I object. I think that this is the town administrator, and the town administrator needs to go back to the Health Trust and Primex. We pay them an awful lot of money. They should know that we have 5 selectmen. This is subrogating our authority, and there's no need for it.
Well, there you go. There's no motion to allow the chair to sign. So if you could please ask them to resubmit with the 5 signature lines, we can move on with that one on the
And I'll be
27th.
happy to do that, and I hope I make the deadline. These things come in at the last minute, the end of the year. As Tim has noted, there are a lot of things coming fast and furious at us, and this is one of them. So I will see if I can get that done.
And that shouldn't be an excuse. These are people that have insured us for years. They know how many selectmen we have.
I would suspect that other towns have one person sign.
In
So
the scheme of things, does it really matter if my name isn't on it? I think not.
Would you like to make a motion, Peter?
Yeah, but what was it? Jeannie, what was it for? I'll make it.
yeah, so basically it's for, it's an amendment to section 125 of the flexible benefits plan, and they've just made a change to increase the FSA carryover limit.
So
So,
moved.
thank you.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any new discussion to be had on this?
New discussion on it.
Yep.
So, Jeannie, can you send them a letter and ask them for that so that, going forward, I agree with Pat. I don't want to hold things up because I know it's the end of the year and all that, but, I think, if you can send a letter to them, would that be?
Certainly. Yes, certainly I will.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Constantino?
No,
Yes.
Bob? Jessamine, yes. Ira?
Ira, yes.
Scanlon?
Scanlon, yes.
The motion carries. Jean?
Thank you. A couple of weeks ago, I put in front of you 2 policies. One was a COVID-19 employee travel policy. Peter had suggested changing language so that it refers to the current CDC guidelines for time in self-quarantine. I did that. Somebody asked about who pays. It does speak to that in the policy. If an employee is traveling outside the area against the guidelines, it's on them in terms of getting tested. It is not on the town. Only in a situation where, like for instance, with the police department, when they need to come back to work and it's required to get the test. But again, even with the police department, we had a situation recently where a police officer went on vacation and came back and self-quarantined, and it was on that person. So this is, that's the travel policy. I gave you a couple weeks ago. If you would like to sign it, that would be great. If not, we don't have to have the policy. The second policy was the ADA policy. I had someone say that we had a policy. I checked, we couldn't find a policy. I checked with Catherine Dawson. She confirmed we don't have a policy. She thought it was a good policy. So I have 2 policies here. You can sign or not sign, and there are 5 signature lines.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the Town of Tilton public notice, Americans with Disability Act guidelines. Is there a second?
Scanlon
Log
second.
second.
We have several seconds. Is there discussion on the motion? Pat? Pat?
No,
Oh,
no
okay.
discussion.
All right. Hearing no other discussion, roll call vote. Please signify by saying aye. Constantino,
I didn't realize she needed to that Jamie needed to vote. It just said if you want to sign it, sign it. But I guess I'm a yes.
well, and that's probably true, but I made the motion, so we do have a motion on the floor. If there's no other discussion, I'll call the vote. Roll call vote. Please signify by saying aye. Constantino?
I already said yes, Joe. Thanks.
Log
Sure,
yes.
you bet. Fogg, you're a yes.
Yeah.
I'm a yes. Jessamine, Ira,
Ira, yes.
Scanlon,
and
yes.
okay. And I guess you're right. We don't need to have anybody sign this travel policy if we're willing to adopt it.
And vote for it because it does have 5 signature lines, and if it goes in our policies, probably all the selectmen should sign it, or if they want to sign it.
Right.
If they want to sign it.
Well, it's in your to be signed now that Tim put up, so
Okay.
if you could, right. We already talked about the warrant articles. I sent you a copy of a quote that Catherine Dawson was able to get on the leveling and loaming of the 132 ball field. Only able to get one quote so far from Bay Hill Excavation. I sent that proposal to you on December 15th. I sent it to you again today. The amount was $110,191, which includes removal and reuse of existing fence, placement of sandy fill, loaming, and hydro seed. You recall at one, I guess the last meeting we had, I had a note in there that Catherine had suggested that depending on how much the estimates were, the board should think about encumbering funds to pay for this work. Coming to the end of the year, just want to find out what you want to do.
I don't
John, want to go first?
Sure. I think we need to have the 3 bids, and also to take a look at the contract so that everybody's bidding on the same one. The other thing is if they're going to be stripping down the topsoil, and replace with sand, and then putting 6 back, what happens with the extra topsoil?
There's minimal
Okay.
topsoil there.
How about you, Peter? You want to continue?
The only way I believe we can encumber funds is if we have a contract.
Correct.
So,
How about you, Eric?
I'd personally like to see 3 bids, but my other question is the fence they're referring to, is that property of Ting or is that property of the town?
the fences.
I want to say the fence is ours.
The parking lot one on the north end might be Tanger's. I think the 6-foot one is ours that goes along the back roadway.
I wasn't sure.
And the front as well, right, Peter?
And there's nothing out front. the tree line out front.
Oh, is that it?
And then you got the cemetery to the right. I'm good.
How about you, Pat?
Well, where would we encumber the funds from? Do we have an answer to that? No.
Tim?
Well, as yet, we don't have 110,000 of budget. I'd have to look. I mean, you'd probably have to make some changes, maybe cancel the air conditioning and reshuffle some things.
Would we be able to get that?
110,000?
Yeah.
Sounds like we need 2 more bids.
We do. And my next question is, we already had 2 more bids. Milestone bid it, and we got a quote from Milestone, and we got a quote from contract.
Milestone may have been a budget estimate. I don't think it was a quote.
The Milestone gave us a budget estimate. Milestone gave us an estimate on how to put that field back together again. So that was $100 and some odd thousand. And we said, "Oh no, forget it." And there was a big to-do over it. And then Catherine agreed that she'd go out and go out and get a bid. And just before that, there was somebody else that took a look at it and was a local contractor. Who was the contractor? Do we know?
Not aware of that.
Was it Reardon? I'm trying to think of who the contractor was. I'm sorry, I can't remember. So there's your 3 quotes. We have a minimum of 2. I know that because Milestone did give us a price.
Yeah, I believe they did.
Right. They did.
I also think it was $160,000.
So my other question to the board is, are we going to make this right for the Parks Commission and the Recreation to make this field whole again? And what is it going to take to do this? Do we encumber some funds towards the contract and recover the rest of it in a warrant article? How are we going to do this? Are we in favor of this or are we not? We first got to start there. I'm totally in favor of it. And we need to figure out where the board stands on this in order to move forward. Because if we fiddle around, when warrant article time comes, we're not going to be able to do it. Now, I mean, we've got to support what we took out.
I remain unconvinced that putting a ball field on that location is the best use of that property.
They haven't decided whether it's going to be a ball field, a football field, or anything yet. Let's restore it back to what it was. And let them decide what uses they have, whether it's a rink or foosball, whatever it is. It doesn't matter.
Am I missing something here? Because they didn't remove anything from that field area, did they?
No.
I mean, there's parking and whatnot. The field area became much smaller. But none of the material was removed. What you're talking about is restoring it, which means a football field, because that's what was there.
My understanding is you can't use a football field the way it was used because now you have to turn it in the opposite direction to get the length of the football field. Because yes,
That's
they
true.
did. Right. So we do need to do some changing here.
If we're putting in a football field.
If you want a level field, we have to do work. Years ago, when we hired Mike Farrington to level the area for the ice rink, we did about a 70 by 110 area that we leveled out because the first year of the ice rink, 2,500 gallons out of tanker one went to the northeast corner of the ice rink, and that was it. There was like an
I remember.
18-inch drop. So we're just trying to get it back level. The existing field is predominantly sand with, if you're lucky, probably 2 inches of loam on top.
I got somebody in the room.
Oh, yeah, you do. Pal for your dog, Peter. Well,
All right, so we need to
you
figure
guys
out.
have,
So, great distraction, Jeannie. We need
Yep.
to figure this out. We cannot delay this. Time is of the essence now because we have warrant articles coming up. We either need to put it in a warrant article to restore it. Town meeting time, when we voted for the police department, they asked what would happen to the ball field, and we said nothing. We would restore it back. Now, come on.
I didn't say that.
The Board of
Eric,
Selectmen said that.
Eric,
When I was a member of the police building committee, and I remember that we didn't want to rush into something, so we actually took the extra year before we did the building plan. My concern is that we're rushing into something into the field. What happens if they determine that a skate park would be the best fit for that? And it's a concrete pad that we put down. Now we just wasted money putting 12 inches of loam down on an area that is going to be an asphalt pad. Let's take a year and figure out, let's get it finished. Let's, rough finish, and then go back and take a year and work with the Parks Department and figure out how to best lay it out.
First off, I don't believe the Parks Commission has any intent on putting a skateboard park there. We already have one in the plans for Northfield. There's no sense duplicating. They're trying to figure out field. We've had a student from Winnisquam approach us about a Lassie League field for softball because that's one of the few type athletic fields that are lacking in the greater Tilton Northfield area.
So maybe that Lassie League field isn't going to take up the entire space, and maybe the whole field doesn't need to be reloaned. Maybe just the area for the Lassie League field.
And then if things change down the line, Eric, we can spend more money and do it again or get it done once, have it level and be set. We can nickel and dime it to death, I suppose. Let's wait 10 years and decide.
John?
Yeah, I can't remember any time as being a selectman where on the end of December we decide to vote $110,000 on something that we don't have a contract for, that we don't have any written bids, and and not even three of them in front. We have estimates and things like that, and they're not even for the same thing. I just can't. I can't do it. I can't last minute approve $110,000 with no bids in front of me and no contract. I can't do that.
I'm not asking for an approval on anything. I'm just asking you to figure out, does the board want to do this or not? And we can't come to a decision.
Can I refresh the board? I believe I came to the board back in either September or October to get this done so we would have it encumbered by now. But that was when we decided, oh no, Parks can't have it. It's going to be the Board of Selectmen decide. So you guys decided. We gave you the time.
Peter's absolutely right.
I'm still a no.
I never saw anything before, and I still haven't seen anything. I just saw a number.
I've sent it to you on December 15th in an email, and then I sent it again to you today.
The bid.
Yeah.
Do we have the other ones?
Milestone, yeah, quite a while ago, back in September.
Yeah, I know it exists. I know it exists. You might not have it, Jeannie, but it's around somewhere.
I can ask for it.
Catherine might know. She might.
Not
Oh, I'll
milestone.
just ask Brian. I'll just ask Brian from Milestone.
There you go. That's even better. How about you, Eric?
I would like to see something more concrete.
So it sounds like we got 2 forward and 3 waiting or no. So I don't know how to proceed.
We'll do it in 2021. We'll punt it like you did back in October.
I didn't punt, Peter. I was very clear in October. I think I'm being very clear now.
The board
I'm a
punted
no.
in October when you pulled it from Parks. Parks would have had it done by now. We've been discussing it for months doing nothing. Now we're at the last minute. Shame on us.
Yeah, I don't feel like that, but I understand your comment. So we have that as a bid, and I suppose if we can come up with the other information so that John and Eric can review the other estimate or bid from Milestone, we can bring this up quickly on the 27th and maybe put it to bed.
I will reach out to Milestone and get that other bid and bring them both forward to you for the meeting on the 29th.
Could we also find out
Otherwise,
where we're
it's
gonna
at
get the
the
money
27th.
from?
I don't know where we're gonna,
I mean,
that would be a
we'll
Tim
vote on
question.
encumbering funds, but we don't know where the funds are and how we come up with them.
John, it might
But
be,
that doesn't necessarily mean we'll encumber funds that we don't have.
but it might be.
We'll have to see what the proposals are. Or we put it in a warrant article and let the people vote on it,
Right.
which I'd rather do anyway. All right, Jeannie, floor is yours.
That is it for me,
Okay, terrific.
unless anyone has any questions for me.
I just had one question. I was trying to find out the information on the Aflac, on the video or the information for signing up for that.
I think that's passed. Are you interested, John? Is that what you
Yeah, I
said?
kept asking for it. I asked at meetings. I called Gail. Gail was looking into it. I think Tim was going to try and find the video on it. There was supposed to be a video. I want to sign up.
Well, I can reach out to Aflac and ask him to connect with you directly, seeing if I kind of feel like it's not too late, but I don't know for sure. So I'll reach out to Mr. Hill and ask him to connect with you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the town administrator? Is there any other business to come before the Board of Selectmen this evening? Is there anybody in the audience? Is there any callers on the line? Okay, the time being 8:29 p.m. I'd like to make a motion to move into non-public session per RSA 91-A, semicolon 3, paragraph 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against them. There's also one other, Jeannie, that's illegal.
Yes, so I'm guessing that what I'm guessing it's not, it doesn't have to do with a legal advice, John, but a pending claims or litigation. Is that what you're talking about? John? Scanlon?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, so it'd be RSA 91A:3, 2E, consideration or negotiation of pending claims or litigation which has been threatened in writing or filed by or against this board or any subdivision thereof, or by or against any member thereof because of his or her membership here therein, until the claim or litigation has been fully adjudicated or otherwise settled.
So moved. Is there a second?
Constantino second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so do you, because I know the chief is gonna join us for one of those non-publics, do you want to do, uh, deal with John's first and then ask the chief to stand by and we'll ask him to call in when we're ready for him?
He
Yeah.
can be there for this.
Oh, okay,
Oh, there you go.
all right.
Roll call vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Constantino,
Aye.
Constantino, yes.
Bog, yes.
Esserman, yes. Pyra,
Ira, yes.
and John was a
Scanlon?
yes.
Yep.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And we're now going to go into non-public session. We expect to be back in about 1 hour or 9:30. We now stand in non-public session.
This conference will now be recorded.
The time being 10:09, we've now come back into the public session. I'd like to seal the minutes. I'd like to make a motion of the non-public meeting of December 17th, 2020, because the reasons justifying the need for non-public session still remain. Is there a second?
Ira, second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Constantino,
Constantino, yes.
Bog, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
The motion is approved. Is there any other business before the selectmen this evening? Well, if there is no other business, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 10:10 p.m. Is there a second?
Bog, second.
We have a motion and a second. A motion to adjourn is non-debatable. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Constantino,
Aye.
Bog, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Ira, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Thank you all very much. Please, we're going to stay right on here when we stop recording.